Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for another match of the Greatest Rivalry Tour. This one, the All Blacks at Loftus taking on the Bulls. Now, this will be the last warm-up match for New Zealand before that first test match taking place next week. The anticipation is building. The preparations have all but been done for both sides, but now there is still one more challenge for New Zealand of these URC teams. At least before that test match, they still have to play the Lions midweek next week, but this is going to be a very exciting one. In fact, the week after, Lions a little bit long, about 10 days' time till we see them against the Lions. But looking through at the starting lineups, it is Tishak Finney in the front row alongside Juan Els and Francois Klopper as the number 3. Ruan Vermaak alongside JF van Heeren in the locking duo with Marcel Coetzee, Hanro Leibenberg and Jandre Rudolph then slotting in as that number 8. Anyone who knows that man from the Curry Cup as well as from the URC days knows that he just seems to work tirelessly throughout the 80 minutes. He puts in some big hits. Will certainly be doing that work. And the breakdown too. Now, I will also mention, when it comes to this Bulls side and a few of the other South African teams that we've seen thus far, they have been missing quite a few of their Springboks. The Bulls fall into that category well and truly. A normal starting pack for this Bulls side would be number 1, Gerald Steenekamp, not available for this match. Number 2, Johan Grobbelaar. Number 3, Wilco Louw. Ruan Nokia in the locking duo alongside Vesa. And then the loose forward trio of Van Staden, Honeycomb, and Elric Lowe. All those men not there. So a lot of work to do for this makeshift Bulls forward pack, but they have certainly got the physicality in their favour and led by Marcel Coetzee as that number 6 option. Leibenberg and Jandre Rudolph, like I mentioned, make up the rest of that loose forward trio. They're going to be under pressure up against Simon Parker, Anton Segner, and Peter Lakai, who is there as the All Blacks. Number 8 in the back line, and Bros Papia, a man who many people want to see back in that green and gold. He's a phenomenal talent. He is lightning quick when he gets accelerating, so he will certainly be one that New Zealand have to shut down early here if they want to stop the Bulls from scoring some handy tries. In the 10 jersey, it is Kerwin Bosch, who is a Springbok himself, 2 caps ages ago, but he is now signed with the Bulls from the Sharks. They're going to get some good momentum in the start of his contract. Stravino Jacobs is out on the left wing. Harold Foster and Sedman Khans make up the midfield with Thaka Abrahams out on the right side and Willie LaRue, the veteran, as that number 15. Now, LaRue has been there, done that when it comes to playing the All Blacks, but he hasn't played them from a Bulls perspective. This will be a little bit different. We have there as in Grobbelaar and Elric Lowe on the bench now. Did that get switched? I know initially it was going to be, who do they replace? We better get that updated before the match gets underway. Is that down to injury or just because they got released? Because that'll be a handy little boost for this Bulls side rather than Jandre Skuman. And I'd assume that would be rather than Gumedi, maybe from that number 20 spot. We have got high all, says Robert, and Richie is back. It's on, says Travis in there, although it's got a little bit longer till we see Richie Mo'unga in an All Blacks kit. Dave Rennie's kind of rumoured that it is going to be up against the Lions that we do see Mo'unga get the chance, but he is back in the squad, and the most recent news for the All Blacks was Caleb Clark, unfortunately suffering from that shoulder injury. So he is going to be in that scenario where he doesn't get to play for maybe the rest of the year because they were released up the ABs. Says Champagne Lord, and also we've got there my first time on your channel, Hamish, is it? And Marina Hamish says, Mick there, welcome in. I hope you are doing extremely well. Nice early morning start for us here in New Zealand, currently sitting just past that 4 a.m. mark. But yeah, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're excited for not just this match, but the rest of the Greatest Rivalry Tour. We're going to be covering it on the channel. So if you're new, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But looking through at this All Blacks starting lineup, again, Dave Rennie has made changes compared to what we saw in the last match. Alongside that, a little bit similar to what was put out on the field up against the Stormers. Now, it was pretty, I'd say, 50-50 at times, the way that it did play against the Stormers side. But he's gone with consistency, which I think is quite important for this stage of the tour. But Xavier Numia, Cody Taylor, and Tyrell Lomax as the front row, that is where the consistency is not, as these 3 men have not played any minutes throughout the Greatest Rivalry Tour. Taylor returning from a calf injury that he did suffer in the game against the Irish, and Numia and Tyrell Lomax, a couple Hurricanes props, waiting for their opportunity, but they've got it here now at Loftus Versfeld. For this game, Fabian Holland and Patrick Tuipulotu, the same duo as we did see for that Stormers match, although I will mention that Holland, he was busy in that first game, so I wouldn't be surprised if they take him off early-ish in this game for Josh Lord, unless, of course, they see Tuipulotu as their main guy in terms of those Springbok tests. But either way, But be very careful with the locks. They have got 4 currently, if you count Vai in that loose forward trio, which seems like that's where New Zealand may be using him for the test. And also Tui Pilotu losing his captaincy. Instead, Cody Taylor will be the captain for this matchup. Looking through at the loose forward trio, we got there Simon Parker as the 6, Anton Segner 7, and Peter Lakai as the number 8, with Ardie Savia closely returning in the near future. I don't know where Lakai fits in to that test match equation. He would certainly do well at 7, but that seems like Jacobson has got that jersey locked down for now in Rennie's eyes. But Lakai could certainly be a great impact player off of the bench if given that opportunity. Cortez Ratama gets the start at 9 alongside Josh Jacob for his first start in an All Blacks kit. Josh Morby is out on the left wing. Like I mentioned, the absence of Caleb Clark now completely opens up that door for the test matches as to who can play out on that left wing side. Will it be Morby, Carter, Fihi, Whinianofo, all great options for New Zealand to be able to use? Maybe they even revert back to Rieko Ioane, as we did see in the first Stormers match. But for now, Ioane is in the midfield, playing number 13 alongside Anton Leonard-Brown as the 12. I mentioned it a few times already throughout the week, but this was the perfect game to give Timothy Tavatava-Nawai the start rather than having him make his way off the bench. Leroy Carter out on the right wing, and then Beauden Barrett back to 15, a change that the All Blacks have made. So it was talked about how many first 5 options New Zealand do have, and maybe that is why they didn't need to bring in Richie Mo'unga, but I talked about it a bit more on that earlier live stream between Japan and Australia. In my eyes, Rieko Ioane has replaced Billy Proctor in terms of the outside centre role. Then from there, they needed another winger, and it seems like Morby is going to be playing as that wing option rather than more so fullback, which then opens up the door for another fullback. That's where Beauden Barrett comes in, and then they need another 10. That's where Mo'unga makes his way into the side. That's at least my reasoning behind it as to why they have gone with Richie Mo'unga rather than an outside back, although with the injury of Caleb Clark, perhaps we're going to see some sort of maybe reshuffle or some sort of flight plan. For now, Rennie said no one's replacing him, but that is because they are waiting till after this game to find out if they need anyone else too. But I think that Che Fiaki currently is a very likely candidate for making his way over to South Africa. We've got there Eldrick Lowe and Johan Grobbelaar have been added to the bench. So it's good to see there. And will we be able to watch the game here? Sadly not. We are just doing the play-by-play commentary all throughout the next few hours. We have also got still 53 minutes of the build-up that we are going to be supplying or providing on the channel. I actually thought that maybe they needed a 9. So I hope it pays off, says Jeff. Yes, see, a 9 or a lock, I think, were the two that they probably needed to look at, to be honest, just because, you know, Cam Roigard, if he does go down with an injury, it's a long flight to get someone over from there. And 6, 9, 10, they knew Hammy. Says Mick in there as well. So 6, 9, so you're talking Simon Parker, Cortez Ratama, and Josh Jacob, all men from the Chiefs. Parker had very limited minutes in terms of his All Blacks season so far. We have seen Cortez Ratama getting quite a few starts due to the absence of Cam Roigard, as well as with this rotational stage of the year, or of the tour that they have been going with, but he did make his way off the bench in all 3 games throughout July. And then Josh Jacob just made his way into the side due to the extended squad of the Greatest Rivalry Tour. Had an impact off the bench in the last game, so now getting another chance. Show what he can do. We have got Kip and said, hi Hamish, welcome in. Hope you're doing extremely well. Good evening, Hamish in the chat. Says, hey no, welcome in. And hi Hamish, hi all. Says, Wild Lobster, hey no, if I could please get you to give me a little favour. Someone has mentioned that Eldrick Lowe and Johan Grobbelaar will be making their way off the bench for the Bulls. Would it be at all possible for you to please change that so that I can then screenshot it and stick it as the background if you have got time? If not, all good. In fact, you're probably at this game now that I think about it. So maybe not. And Morgan's playing to do a U-turn. Says Peanut Slab there. And we have there, come on, we are all ready for the game from Culloden. And there says Pamela there. And hi Hamish, hi all, says Wild Lobster. And when is the first Springbok test? Well, the first test of this Greatest Rivalry Tour, it's getting closer, as you can see there, 7 days away. In fact, less than 7 days till we get to see the All Blacks go head-to-head with South Africa as the test match. And that test match stage of the Greatest Rivalry Tour does get underway. There is still a midweek game against the Lions that has taken place in around 10 days' time. But alongside that, then 3 test matches on the trot, including that last one, which has taken place in Baltimore. A little bit of a different test. And quite a few people surprised at the choice of taking it to the USA. And obviously the payday is going to be quite good for those two sides. It's going to be an 11 p.m. kickoff for you guys in South Africa, which is pretty brutal. which almost sounds like I'm being ironic when it's currently 4 a.m. and we are up covering this game. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a late night for the South Africans there on Saturday night, so at least Sunday got a bit of the sleep in alongside it too. Looking currently at that All Blacks form though, in fact we'll put that one back up for a second. The Stormers, in the first contest, it was competitive round to half time, although New Zealand running away with it in the final 20 minutes, winning that game 38 points to the 21. That game against the Sharks, as competitive as many people hoped that there would at least be some moments where it was a bit back and forth. The All Blacks dominated 54-0. And now this is where we see the Bulls in action. It's at altitude. The first test for New Zealand in terms of the atmospheric conditions, but last week it was bucketing down against the Sharks, or earlier this week, sorry. So that probably was a pretty good test too. But this is definitely going to be different, having to play in a location where your lungs start to burn early. You have to try and power through. A lot of these Bulls guys are used to it, but even then, the stamina tank can get drained relatively quickly. We have got there watching the game from Uzbekistan. 25 points for the All Blacks, says Sports Unfiltered, or 25 plus. And Isaac Hutchison is on Rennie's private jet to South Africa, says Peanut Slab. The thing is, he could be, in a way. Like, he is almost back from his his Super Rugby injury. He's been going to the trainings in his NPC side. So, if he is getting close, maybe they do find a way of squeezing him in. But I also do think in this type of scenario, you kind of do want someone like a Fiaki, just because of that high ball ability. Hutchison may be a bit hesitant going up to that high ball after the way that he got injured, but Fiaki in the NPC has been doing really well for Canterbury. I know the game ticket's too expensive. It'll be on the third test, FNB Stadium. I can change it in about 10 to 15 minutes. No worries at all. Thank you very much, Hano. And we've got there, I think he's injured. I would have loved to see him in the All Blacks soon. I hope the AB's discipline is better throughout the match. Yeah, well, that's been a real talking point for this All Black side. The way that their discipline has slipped throughout, all throughout this year, in fact. They have been struggling with the discipline kind of side of things. We have got the hello, Amish Watson. Trust you are well and keeping out of trouble. Says Byron in a 50-minute run into the game. Fair play. Says Rugby Jackal. Yeah, these games always seem to absolutely fly by when it comes to the build-ups. Like, we've been going 12 minutes already, and it feels like maybe 4 or 5. So we normally have to have quite a large chunk before the game, definitely with the discussion based around this tour. You guys are always very active in the chat way before the match starts up, so it is always a pretty fun kind of hour beforehand. How's the weather, says Joe Mann. We are yet to see the field here in New Zealand. We get to see it in about probably 5 minutes time. That's when the coverage for us does kick in. And when do you think Rassi going to drop the Springbok side? Do you think he'll do as in the Nations Championship and drop it on Monday, or will he be more conservative and drop it on Tuesday? I think he'll probably go early, Rassi. Maybe not Monday. I think Tuesday might be his better option. Definitely in this scenario, if he has got a few Bulls guys that he's got his eyes on heading towards that first matchup. But at the end of the day, we've learnt from Rassi, you can announce a side on Monday, but it doesn't have to be the team you put on the field. You know, the first game of the Nations Championship, announcing the Monday side, having 2 changes in the lineup compared to that by the weekend. So, in a way, it's an honorary lineup for the early stages. So he could announce it tomorrow, but we could see 5 changes heading into the weekend. But it's one of those ones that you can do that. Like, there's no rule or no law against it. So, yeah, I think that Rassi, unless, of course, he is going to try and keep the cards close to the chest, we could see it as a Thursday announcement, but that would be almost unheard of for Rassi Erasmus. We have got there, if I was Rennie, would have just brought 2 players over, just to use versus the Lions, says Sports Unfiltered. And that was the Wallabies game. First half was really good, back and forth type of rugby. Second half, the Japan side just didn't show up, unfortunately. And Australia, I mentioned about it, I felt like that was the best second half we've seen Australia play in a really long time. They were dominant across the board. Ma'anonu is gassed out after the one-man haka, or was gassed out after the one-man haka, says Rugby Jackal. He probably had a lot of adrenaline, to be fair. Doing a haka by yourself to a team that you represented for 13 years, to see all those young guys that you've played alongside in the early stages of their careers, to then be almost like a role model to them. They talked about Caleb Clark, how for him he used to play back at the Blues with Ma'anonu and Sonny Bill Williams in one of the seasons, and now facing off against Ma'a, like at an international tour kind of matchup must have been an insane feeling, but he still had enough energy to run over the top of Ruben Love when he made his way onto the field. We have got there, I have to nip into the Kazi for a quick Turkish delight. So I should be back before then anyways. Wish them a happy BD. Says Rugby Jackal there. And we have got the Rascal Erasmus, says Byron. And good luck to the Bulls. AB should demolish you. And get the hoodie on, Hamish. It's 5 a.m. for God's sake, says Joe Man. Yeah, it's not very warm here either. We're actually anticipating snow today where I am. So, yeah, it could be warmer. And Bro's a good player from the Bulls, says Met. Yeah, he's certainly got a lot of talent. And hopefully Rassi does give him some sort of opportunities across the 4-test series. The altitude in Pretoria is 1,287 metres above sea level. Compared to Johannesburg, 1,800 metres above sea level. Where it is much higher, says Monet Lagrange. We're over there, incredible. Up to 40% of people back in the Bulls, says Rolink there. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Bulls get the upset done. Well, I think the hard thing for Bulls supporters in this scenario is they've seen their side do so well at times. Just going to show you the recent form of this Bulls team. You know, they go into games like that quarterfinal. Phenomenal game. 45 points to 14, completely in control over Munster. But earlier on in the season, there were matches where they were even at home and they just didn't quite put it together. The one up against the Lions comes to mind. But that semi-final, they were able to beat Glasgow. That is something that not many people thought would happen. But they were able to go away from home and get the job done at Murrayfield. But then the final, again, similar to what we saw last season. The Bulls made it all the way to the final dance. And then they lost by a big margin. That just doesn't quite look good for them in those finals matches. But up until that stage, you know, big wins for this Bulls side. And as you can see, before the playoffs, they were in some really good form. The overall season, they were finishing fourth. I feel like in hindsight, you know, being third could have been a little bit more handier. In fact, I think being second could have been massive for them. If they had been able to take away that home field advantage from Leinster, I think that final could have been a different story. But for now, they have to try and get that, I guess, momentum back in their favour, ready to go for the next season, because we are not too far away from the URC 2026-27. We have got 6 weeks until they have the opening contest against Zebra. Aside that recently, they were able to get themselves a good, solid, about 30-point win over. And then Munster, another team that they bet comfortably. But that game up against the Lions, again, at Loftus, that's the game that will kind of shape the season for the Bulls. They need to continue that winning momentum. And so I'm anticipating at least 1 from 2 for the first 2 matches we have got there. Good to see you this evening. Hope all goes well for you. See you, Salah. Same to you. And South Africans supposed to take care about the All Blacks more than this on Tuesday night. Only 14,759 people dotted the 52,000 Kings Park seat. Yeah, although to be fair, the weather was not great. Hamish is angry for me, I see, says Mohaddin. Not that I know of Mohaddin. But I don't know what you've put so far. We have here there, I just want the Bulls to at least get a point on the board, says Kip. And also, were you in altitude somewhere where you travelled? Says Mornay, don't think so. I don't think I've been up a mountain before, but that was only like 300, 400 metres up. So I don't think that would count. We have got there, Sharks were extremely disappointing, says Kip. And when does the game begin? The game will be beginning in around 40 minutes' time. It looks like a decent afternoon in Loftus from the earlier shot that they did show. But the starting lineup's looking very different from what these two sides would normally look like. The All Blacks will be well and truly rotated in the first test match. And then alongside that, the Bulls, when they get back to the URC, in a way, they'll have a very different looking side, but maybe not for the same reasons as they'd like. Arnsa, Ruan Nokia, both going overseas. Wilco Lowe, here's leaving this side too. So yeah, a lot of changes that are being made, unfortunately, for this Bulls side, which I don't know whether or not that benefits them for that next season, or maybe they'll need a rebuild in the next year. Leonard Brown is the only 12. There's only 12 tests of Matanunu's 103. Says Peanut Slab. What time is kickoff? Kickoff will be 7 p.m. South African time, so around 40 minutes time, or 5 a.m. for us here in New Zealand. When are you coming over to the Republic? Hopefully within the next 5 years. Now, I know that I said that about 2 years ago, but hopefully at some stage be able to make the trip. I hope the All Blacks discipline is better throughout the match. Says Ant plays. What's your prediction? Close game is what I pray for. I hope it's a close game, but I have decided to go a little bit more one-sided. I do think that New Zealand is starting to get some good momentum heading forward, so I've gone an optimistic All Blacks by 31, but realistically, if the Bulls turn up and play well, I think between 10 and 20 is a lot more likely, just because of the way that they play in that last kind of 15 minutes. Is this our full team, Hammy, or mix? It's definitely a mix. It's nowhere near what we will see in the starting lineup for Dave Rennie up against the Springboks taking place next week. I would say of this lineup, if we're being honest, I would say maybe 4 or 5 of these guys play up against the Boks in the starting side. And that's possibly optimistic too. Maybe 6 if you're really at a push. And Hamish and everyone, if you had to pick Artie or Peter Steph-Toy, who gets in your team, what position are you playing them in? Because I play Savia as the 8, I'll play Peter Steph-Toy as the 7. Because I think it depends on what type of role you need from both men as to who you actually select in the scenario. Savia's been playing 8 all of this year now for New Zealand, even though it seemed like a golden opportunity to get him back in that number 7 kit. But they do seem to like to avoid that at the moment, the Kiwis. 1 second, we're going to quickly get our screenshot of the lineup so that we can chuck it up on the screen. There we go. But yeah, this game is getting close, ladies and gentlemen. This will be the big build-up before the Bulls get underway up against the All Blacks. From there, the next live stream on the channel, I believe, will be next weekend, although I think we'll have a midweek stream or a later in the week stream or something along those lines, more than likely, just as a bit of a preview for this upcoming matchup. At the end of the day, it is going to be an absolutely huge one when the two sides go head-to-head. But it is going to be a passion-fueled tour for all of these sides. The greatest rivalry at the end of the day, the name does kind of stand for itself. Who will be the captain for the Springboks next week, says Mohadin. More than likely, Peter Steph-Toy, I would say, will be in the equation, mainly because of the fact that we've seen the injury for Sio Kolisi, maybe Etzebeth, maybe Marks, maybe Creel. I feel like there are about those 3 guys who are potential captaincy options. And then done, Hamish, says Ano. But yeah, thank you very much, Ano, for updating that one for us. Do you know why they've taken out the 2 players who were initially there? Is it because of the Springboks being available, or is it because of injuries? Because I get playing those guys if they were available, but I also kind of feel for a guy, if it is an injury base for a Jandre Skurman or a Gumedi, you were on paper playing the All Blacks in what would be regarded as one of the biggest games of your career, and then they go, well, actually a Springbok's returning, so you can just sit on the sideline today. So I hope it's injury-based, or else it's a bit rough. They are just showing here 13 degrees as the temperature in Pretoria. It is a clear night, which is fantastic news for the running rugby side of things of this contest. We have got give the captain to WLR. Oh, you're giving it to Billy LaRue. And greatest rivalry says a Rugby Jackal. And also cool, dry, clear, hardly any wind. Pretty ideal rugby conditions. Says Mark there. And it will be Peter Steph-Toy. Says Mornay for his captain of the Springboks. And so I'll miss the game. My team drawn against the Chiefs. Says Heaney. And one thing that has impressed me about the All Blacks under Dave Rennie is the last 15 to 20 minutes in all the games except the Italy game. It was clear to see the last 15, 20 were their dominant ones. And that's the thing. Russie also loves targeting that end of the game, doesn't he? So because of that, it's going to be a really interesting chess match for the first 20, or the last 20, sorry, of that first test, because we're going to end up in the scenario where one side will have the more dominating moments. But I think it could be a bit back and forth depending on who's in control earlier on. And hoping to see players, or hoping to not see players slowing the game down. Says Zach Gray. And also we have got there, the question is no longer whether they can live with the All Blacks. It's how much further they can pull away. Says Rugby Jackal, and South Africa has won 4 of the past 5 meetings, including the 2023 Rugby World Cup final. Last year handed the All Blacks a 43 point to 10 hiding in Wellington. The Springboks are back-to-back world champs. Says Rugby Jackal. Okay, so you're saying because a side in recent times has had great form, it can no longer be a rivalry with a side that they've played for a century? Is that the logic behind that, Rugby Jackal? I feel like, yes, you can say current form is phenomenal for the Springboks team, but to say that they have no rivals in the world because they're just too strong is an interesting take, because, you know, at the end of the day, international rugby has proven us time and time again. I don't want to do it again, but I'm going to mention them. Wales, perfect example. They were at the top of the top, and then now they are struggling to stay in the top 10 in the international rugby rankings. That is the beauty of rugby, and also the nightmare that a rugby like season can also be, because it can all change in an instant, which is why you got to take the highest of highs, because when you're at that lowest of low point, You either stick with the side or people move on, and it seems like only those loyal ones do stick with them. Blitzbox Sevens, another perfect example. That was a side that were on top of the world with an absolutely massive winning streak. And then as soon as they started losing games, their viewership dropped about 80%. People said, remind us or let us know when you start going well again, and we might start supporting that green and gold. So, yeah, it's all about perspective in terms of the short term. Yes, it's great, but the long term, a side or two sides that have played each other for a very long time, have had some classic moments, would still be regarded as the greatest rivalry. Rugby released them to the Bulls to get one more game time, but the strange thing is, why release them after the team announcement? Why does Rugby do Rugby things half the time? He would have had the tactic or probably the plan beforehand. Maybe he was, but yeah, you got to feel for Yandre Skurman. You got to feel for Gumedi, who both would have been in trainings, probably preparing for this game, to then get that phone call and go, oh, by the way, you're no longer in the team because Rugby wants a couple of his boys playing out there on the park instead. It's not injury-based. Rugby has given them game time because they won't be in the Test 23. Says Lick. Rennie's quite good at rallying his players. They seem to come out in the second half and play better. And where are they playing? This game is being played at Loftus. And that is going to be 1,350 metres above sea level. So a little bit of altitude as a factor here in this game, which means that the lungs will be burning later on in the match. The whole world is now their rival, says RB Pat. And the last World Cup final can no longer be used as a yardstick. Only your last match counts, says cited there. And also greatest rivalry historically. Yes, perfect. So we've got an agreement there. But to brand this as the greatest rivalry, more so ever again, France for me. But fair enough, Wales, which do you give as a good example? And New Zealand have always been consistent. Says a rugby jackal, will the lungs last in the last 20? At the 60 minutes, the tank will be empty. Well, that's the thing. You've got to ask the big question. For this New Zealand side, how late can they use their bench? I would say if they end up with any sort of early injuries, that is where the struggle really will come in for New Zealand, as that is when you don't have as many fresh legs late. I do think that the Bulls more than likely will have to use their subs maybe a bit earlier than they also anticipated. We saw in that game against the Sharks how much the Sharks' gas tank dropped when New Zealand started upping the tempo in the second half. We have got there, if it was Rastafarian, he would simply be Russ Erasmus. And we have got the, hey brother, good to see the channel going well. Welcome in, Maxi. Hope you are keeping well. You are, I assume you're still in Spain, so hopefully the weather is nice there. I know you guys have been hit with a heat wave for the past about 3 or 4 months. But yeah, I hope you're keeping well. It's great to see you back. Are you worried about Cam Roigard, Will Jordan being cold for the first test? Or do you back them to hit the ground running since they're phenomenal players? Says Godzilla. Well, I see you've got the quotation around phenomenal, and I would say that you don't need the quotations. Like Cam Roigard at the moment has shown that he is one of the best nines in the world. Will Jordan has got one of the most clinical try-scoring records in international rugby, bringing up the half-century and already becoming New Zealand's most decorated try-scorer against Tier 1 nations, with him still being young. I would say that those two men, like, the thing is, Fabian Holland's a perfect example of, if it's a good player, you can go out there and you can hit the ground running straight away. You know, Fabian Holland hadn't played rugby for 6 months after suffering a shoulder injury. Goes out there, makes dominant tackles, wins his lineouts, and does pretty much everything right to now put him back in the conversation for the test matches. So I would say for Roigard, maybe there'll be a little bit of gingerness. Maybe the same could actually be said about Will Jordan as well, seeing as it's a back tweak. But they're good enough players, and at the end of the day, they are professional athletes, so they will be ready to go. And boys, the world rode off. Our All Blacks last World Cup, no one gave us a chance in hell. We lost by 1 point in the World Cup final with 14 players. Underestimate at your own peril. Well, that's the thing. People were sacking Ian Foster before that World Cup. They were still sacking him after the World Cup, but they were a little bit more happy with how the All Blacks went. Definitely after their opening contest, where they did lose to the French. There, the Blue Bulls would check the All Blacks. All Blacks can't afford an injury to the first 5, says Hayno. Yeah, although they've got plenty of cover in general. I would say that in this scenario, if Josh Jacob gets injured, Beauden Barrett goes to 10, and then they stick Amoni Narawa at 15. Or you stick Morby at 15, Narawa goes to the wing. I think that they've got enough cover in this scenario. But of course, you don't want to suffer those early injuries, or you don't want any injuries along the 80 minutes. I hope Jordan, D-Mac, and Roigard don't carry injuries into the week. I'm hoping game 1 is the best 3 teams. And also, who are the first choice All Blacks wingers for the first test, says Francis. At the moment, I would say, in an ideal scenario with injuries aside, you go I think you'd go Fehi Whitianofo to replace Caleb Clark, because Caleb Clark would have been, I believe, in that back three. But yeah, I go Fehi Whitianofo, and then out on the other wing, you're probably still going Will Jordan if he is 100%. We have got their first five meant like the locks and the props. Oh, sorry, I thought you meant like the first five is in the number 10, so the tight five. Yeah, I mean, suffering a locking injury would be pretty brutal for them, although I do think that Jamie Hanna would be on the first plane over if that was the case. Hookers-wise, Taylor's an interesting one here. Coming back from injury, they've got Asafua Moa, who's in some phenomenal form. They've got Samasoni Taukei'aho, who was great in Super Rugby Pacific too and has continued on throughout the early stages of the Greatest Rivalry Tour. But more than likely for that experience, Cody Taylor will get the nod, even though current form would say he's the third choice hooker out of the New Zealand options. But having experience gets you a long way. And we have got there Kristen Cullen at 15 to go. And All Blacks by 15 points. So far, it's an easy tour. Says Angie, yeah, although they've had a couple shaky moments along the way, the ABs. I would definitely not call that game against the Stormers for the first half an easy one for the All Blacks. But they've adapted, which I think is the big thing for Dave Rennie that he'll be extremely happy with. Having a side go out there and be put under pressure, but then be able to find a way of rotating that and change it so that you end up in a scenario where, you know, you come out in the last 20 minutes and really assert a nice bit of dominance for the final moments. Like, that is something that Rennie will be looking at and be thoroughly impressed with. My Bruce, there's a solid Bulls pack. Says Reno, yeah, although we did read through who they would normally have. You know, number 1, Gerard Stennekamp, 2, Johan Robela, 3, Wilco Low, Ruan Nokia and Kobus Vesa as their normal locks. And then from there, Maka van Staden, Elric Low, Cameron Honeycomb would be the ideal loose ball trio. They have got none of those players available other than Robela and Low now off the bench late. But yeah, it's still a physical type of team. And that's something that New Zealand have found out about in the scrum department. You know, these South African sides, they do not mince their words or do not mess around when it comes to scrums. They are really the foundation of a lot of these Springbok sides or a lot of these South African teams, the physicality and the way they're able to play from the set piece, something that we will see the Bulls probably try and target in this game as well. There were multiple games last season in the URC where the Bulls looked like they were having a few shaky moments early, and then the scrum dominance later in the game won the match for that side. So they'll be trying to do that against the All Blacks here. Anton Lienert-Brown or Tava Nawai off the bench first test. Says mean as. It's actually a tricky one. And for me, I think Rennie will go Anton Lienert-Brown. I think that a lot of people want to see Tava Nawai, but Tava Nawai not starting in this game makes me think he is down Rennie's pecking order. As Anton Lienert-Brown, as much as people do like to trash talk what he has done throughout recent seasons, he's actually in good form this year. And he's having some really good moments. He went to Japan and had a standout season for his Japanese top league side, and now coming into the All Blacks kit, I don't think he's done too much wrong except for that yellow card. And even when he got the yellow card, he still received man of the match from that contest. Good to see Wallace Aditi back in the mix. Says Rugby Jackal, yeah, going to be making his way off of the bench in this contest. I think for me at the moment, there is a real, I'd say a traffic jam for New Zealand with Satiti, Larkai and Segner all fighting for that bench spot. And then you've also got Blackadder in the equation too, but the ideal scenario is to have Blackadder as the 19, have Tupavai at 6, and then from there that allows you to not go with a lock off the bench, gives the opportunity to, like I mentioned, Satiti, Larkai or Segner. Trevino Jacobs' first try for the Bulls. Says Mick there, and good to see Wallace Aditi. And also we've got the Moore as our best hooker. Tell me a hooker who is better. Says Rolling. Yeah, at the moment, Asafua Moore is in tremendous form. I know that for Super Rugby-wise, it was a bit back and forth between him and Samasoni Taukei'aho. I do think that Moore as a whole was better, but Taukei'aho was way better at finding the try line. I think he scored about 14 tries throughout the season, or it might have been a bit less, maybe about 12, but he had that advantage over Asafua Moore, which was interesting seeing as the Hurricanes had scored so many tries throughout their season. Anton Lienert-Brown doesn't get a fair shake, never gets his flowers, having a great season, well said. Needs saying more often, says Rugby Jackal. And we have got there, I kind of think if Jimmy plays well, he can sneak into that Test 23, and Larkai is classy. Larkai has a very bright future. I just don't know where they're going to be able to squeeze him in. Like, at the end of the day, Artie Savia comes back, and then they'll put him as the captain. More for me isn't clinical enough in the lineouts. Easy fix. But still seems to be struggling on that aspect of the game. Says good to see you there. If we lose a Suffle man, he's our impact. And good to see Hundro Labenberg back in South Africa. Says, how's it and how long before it starts? Still only 25 minutes away. So again, this time has absolutely flown by. We have been going for 35 minutes. Matt Field and Marshall commentators. Sounds like they already had a few. Says Albert. And also, we've got the good to see Hundro Labenberg, and also people think that Anton Leonard-Brown is a bish bash bosh up the middle player, but his game is more nuanced. Well, the thing is, he's actually evolved his game quite a bit throughout the last couple of years, and you know, I do still think that he is the type of player that could completely, almost, do I want to jinx this by saying it? I feel like I don't want to jinx him, but does anyone remember about 3 years ago where Jesse Creel was regarded as South Africa's almost bad guy in the backline? They didn't want him there. A lot of Springbok supporters, they said that Creel, he was over the hill, that he was no longer welcome in that green and gold centre pairing. And then he had a season that completely changed his game and completely changed people's perspectives on him. And now Jesse Creel's the guy that you cannot write out of a Springbok lineup. Like, we saw it, because that's the thing. We've been going long enough on the channel. We've seen the ups and downs of certain players. And Jesse Creel was one of them. But the thing is, Leonard-Brown, he could also have that kind of Jesse Creel turn, I feel. And he's already got plenty of experience to go with it. We have got there, what's up, Rugby Rabbits? See Cyrus there. Do you think Artie Savia is going to play in the next game against South Africa? I think he's going to be over there on about the... Was he flying over on maybe the 15th or the 16th? It might actually be this weekend that he was flying out. Creel had a lot of juice that changed everyone's perspective on him. Says Rugby Jackal, I had a feeling that the Bulls are going to take this out by a measly 2 points. And good move to give Jacob experience. Yeah, it is also nice to see that Rennie, like at the point of time when the lineup was announced, that was before Mo'unga had flown over. So, you know, some people thought they were going to chuck him straight into the starting lineup and give him the big chance here, but Mo'unga's probably still feeling it a little bit from that long flight. More than likely playing up against the Lions as the next one and keep them at 0, says Cyrus. And who's kicking for the Bulls, says Mohaddin. I would say in this scenario, Kerwin Bosch, we're the man with the kicking tee. Jesse is a living legend, says Ulrich there. We have got Lower's back with his massaging, and the Bulls getting castrated, says Sonny. And also, we've got there, well, the All Blacks go with a 5-3 or 6-2 split for the first test. I think they'll probably still go 5-3. I know that a lot of people are saying that they have to go 6-2, but the last time they went 6-2, they didn't play very well, the All Blacks, and I feel like they have to play their own game. It's all well and good going to South Africa and trying to adapt to the way that the Boks are going to play. But I also do think that New Zealand, at times when they play South Africa, shy away from what made New Zealand so dangerous. They kind of almost get sucked into playing the same sort of tempo and the same sort of style as South Africa do play, which is extremely effective for South Africa, but it's not effective for New Zealand. New Zealand have to play their game that they're playing throughout the rest of this year. They have to be quick. They have to try and find a way of keeping the game tempo flowing. And your first choice AB's fly half. For me, currently, it's Ruben Love. And I know that some people are still not completely sold on Love as of yet, but I think that the way that that man is kicking off the tee as well, he's definitely putting his name up into the starting equation for those test matches. Imagine Ruben Love versus Sasha Feinberg and Ngume Zulu in that 10 jersey battle. That would be pretty awesome, I do have to say. And 5-3 always works better for the All Blacks. No point in trying to win the heavy cattle fight, says Rugby Jackal. And Josh Morby, Tiawa Mutu Sports, and Taha Kimura, and Ian Foster, Warren Gatlin, John Mitchell. Says Cyrus, I've got a feeling the Bulls could piss this off. Says Mike. And also, I remember when Bosch was supposed to be the next big thing. And a good player. I hope he has a good game tonight, says how's it? And if D-Mac is injured, how would you feel about Love at 15 and Richie Mo'unga to 10? I don't think it's likely that they'll drop Love to 15, even though he has played there throughout the Super Rugby Pacific season at times when Harkin had a couple injuries. But I think that with the form that Love's found from the 10 jersey, you don't fiddle around too much with that. I would say you go Morby 15 or you go with Will Jordan to 15. But again, with how clinical Will Jordan's been out on the right wing, you're better off keeping him out there. So yeah, I think that Morby comes in as that 15 and then Ruben Love either gets that starting 10 spot or to make his way off of the bench. But I think it would be a big risk now to change the tactics that have been working so well for them. We see it time and time again how players, they'll switch them and then the game doesn't quite fire. Ruben Love under the high ball, though, is definitely a handy option if they do want to look at it that way. How's it all? Who do we think scores first, says Stephanie? First try, I'm thinking... See, the thing is, right, this is going to be, once again, another controversial take. Leroy Carter is such a dangerous player with ball in hand, but for some reason, this is going to backfire. This whole statement, this is going to get clipped, but for me, he doesn't seem like a first try scorer in this type of matchup. For me, he's probably scoring about third or fourth. I bet you he scores first now. I'm thinking it might actually be one of the forwards, like a Larkai or a Simon Parker, who drive their way over. Got a comment, Hamish. Opposition should not try to adapt to South Africa, especially New Zealand. They need to focus on their own game plan, says the Ballers. But yeah, it's pretty much the scenario of who's going to be better at the tactic. A side that literally train it and have almost perfected it, or a side that decide they want to play it for the week. It's always going to be the side who have that advantage. So you've got to play your own style that they have not spent time playing. And people not convinced by Love are dumb, says Rolling there. And bed looks good, Hamish, says Laura McDonald. Yes, someone said earlier on, which I took as a compliment, they were like, you must have gone to the barber because you wouldn't be able to do it that well yourself. But I actually did do it myself. So I think that's some sort of compliment that I received from them in a roundabout way. But thank you very much, Laura. We have got the All Blacks should play their strengths. Bulls must play theirs. We will see who wins after 80 minutes, says cited there. And Ruben has a great opportunity to shine throughout the Greatest Rivalry Tour, says Reno there. And do you think the Bulls could take this game? Honestly, no. I think if it was a full-strength Bulls side, it would be a lot more competitive. But in this scenario here, I just see New Zealand, similar to what we've seen in the other games, being able to control the match in the later stages of the game. But don't get me wrong, I think we are also going to see some pretty handy moments from this Bulls team, but I just don't see them doing it for the 80 minutes. But I would also love to be proven wrong. From other hemisphere looking in, from Ireland, I'd have Ruben Love all day over Sasha Feinberg and Zulu. He has a really good rugby IQ, a bit like Will Jordan in that regard, says Rugby Jackal. And how's it going, Hamish? Reckon the All Blacks take it by 14 at least, says Richard for his prediction. First try to Bowden Barrett. And the Bulls will run at the All Blacks. Watch. They have some big runners defensively. They could struggle, but they definitely got big game players who like to run well. Jandre Rudolph is the man who I look at each and every time. I mentioned about it in the preview. Some All Black supporters will wake up and see that man and think, hey, who let the 45-year-old player out there on the field? But he's one of those guys who he will go about his work here. And this type of opposition, this type of match for Jandre Rudolph, again, I don't want to jinx it, but I know I'm going to. But if he can avoid any sort of yellow or red card here, he's going to have a fun day because he'll have opposition who really want to get in there and fight with him in those breakdowns, which is exactly what Jandre Rudolph absolutely loves to have. We have there, do you think will be, or who do you think will be the biggest threats in the Bulls side? And Bros Papier straight away because of that acceleration. We saw what he was able to do for the Bulls throughout the URC season, as well as that game he got for the Box. I would say, in terms of other players to keep an eye out for, I actually think Willie Leroux is going under the radar a little bit for his importance in this game. When you're lacking your normal experienced guys, having someone like a Willie Leroux could be absolutely massive. We have got there, would it be a drop though? Love was great under the high ball and great defensively. But I get the sentiment of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, see, he could transition seamlessly to number 15, or he might have an absolute balls up trying to do that switch. And then that's the type of thing that if you're doing it in the first test match as well, that's really going to be a big adjustment to have to deal with. 1 second, we're going to go like this and like that. You look like the lad from V for Vendetta. It's a great look. And the film V for Vendetta, I've seen that film. Which lad are you talking about? Rugby Jackal in it. And we have there, you don't bring Japan form to play a team like the Springbok. Moonga really. So Springbok is a top team and they need a top player to face them. Says Mick there. Your facial hair length is perfect, Hamish. Very handsome. Says Sports Unfiltered. Thank you very much. And how's it from Zimbabwe? Welcome in, Barry. Nice. Oh, actually, no, decent kickoff time in South Africa, isn't it? And Zimbabwe too. I think it's going to be a 7 p.m. kickoff for both of those countries. You have got there Richie as game-breaking X-Factor ability would definitely move Love to fullback. Says David there. You know what, the chat's going 1,000 miles an hour. And I think that I've missed about 40 messages, so we'll have to go down. We will read them again after the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. 7 p.m. makes his Barry for the kickoff time, so we are only sitting 15 minutes away. We are close to the two sides making their way out onto the field, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited. As you guys can probably tell, this is once again another great opportunity to see these sides in action before that first test match. Will be South Africa versus New Zealand in 1 week's time. FIFA Vendetta there with the mask on. And the Guy Fawkes beard. Wait, so you're talking about actually like V? Does he show his face in it? I'm going to have a wee Google. Who plays V for Vendetta? Hugo Weaving. Well, there you go. Didn't know that. Good film, actually. Okay, game time. Says Rugby Jackal there. And I like this Georgian ref. So, yeah, I assume that would be a Mashakali then. And awesome over there. Let's go the All Blacks. Says Pilla. And are you supporting the Springboks next week? Says Mohadeen. I'm hoping it's going to definitely be one of those ones that is close. Aussie guy, says John. Are you the Aussie guy or am I John? I assume you are, right? And LaRue and Bosch have got the big boots on them. And also we have got there, who's this on? Loftus. Says Meanaz. And also we have got there, Hamish, is this your full-time gig, or do you commentate purely for the love of the game? So it is definitely not my full-time gig. It is my hobby on the weekends. I do still have a full-time job during the week that I work as well. But yeah, it has become a big part of the channel. A big part of my life in general throughout the last 5, almost 6 years. Since our first live stream, since then we've probably done over 1,500. I think we've actually done closer to 2,000 matches of rugby throughout random hours. We have got there, no mate, Hugo is the Aussie guy, says John there. And we have got there the glorious Elrond himself, says Stephanie. And also Hugo Weaving. Okay, I get you now. They are just showing the starting lineup for the All Blacks. No late changes in this All Blacks team. So looking through the front row, no game time for these three men up until this contest. Xavier Numia, Cody Taylor, the captain, and Tyrell Lomax. Then as that number 3, looking through at the rest of the pack, it's pretty handy and pretty well set too. What we got to see up against the Stormers with Holland and Tui Pilotu in the locks, Simon Parker, Segna, and Larkai making up that loose forward trio. The back line is very much so more reshuffled for New Zealand here. We have got there, this team is more like the test team, says Sash. Hey, Hamish, says Sash in there too. Wait, this New Zealand side's more like the test team, says Sash. See, I would say that the side that played the Sharks is more like it. We have you there. I love it when people find something they do, love and do it. Inspiring mate, says Sports Unfiltered, and very strong midfield, says Sven there. We're in for some exciting test rugby. Yeah, do let me know your score predictions for this game, ladies and gentlemen. Anyone who hasn't already. And also who you think will score the first try. We have seen Beauden Barrett's name thrown in there. We have also seen Peter Larkai mentioned as a first try option. Bodie and Segna due for a big game. Says Barry, yeah, see, Segna's been an interesting one. He had a solid performance up against the Stormers, but it definitely wasn't anything absolutely crazy. But this type of matchup here for Anton Segna could be the big chance to be able to really put his name in the hat and find a way into that 23. Now, it's pretty difficult to be able to do that because currently, you've got Ethan Blackadder in the equation, which I do think that Rennie will probably put in as the bench player. But then you've got that number 20 jersey for me, which is undecided. And that's where Segna, Satiti, and Larkai, I think that they're all fighting for that opportunity. We have there, it's funny how South African fans and pundits don't seem to know who our best team is. I heard a bunch saying this is our test team. Says Sports Unfiltered. Yeah, well, I think there's still a lot of question marks around what Rennie's strongest side is and what Russie's strongest side is, which is why these 4 test matches are literally going to be just that. It's going to be a test of depth for both of the teams because we've seen injuries happening for New Zealand throughout this greatest rivalry tour. We have seen South Africa suffering their fair share of injuries throughout the last 12 months. So it's going to be who can adapt, and of course, no lineup is going to be the same across those test matches. Everyone's going to rotate. Ethan has the mongrel that we need. Says Barry there, not 50 for the All Blacks. Come on, lads. Says Meanaz. And there too. But they are just showing that starting lineup of the Bulls. A couple big players in this lineup. And just most notably in terms of Springbok experience, you would have to say it is Willie LaRue. Alongside that, Bosch and Papia both have about the same amount of Springboks caps. Marcel Coetzee, old school Springbok from quite a wee while ago. And Yandre Rudolph. I'll say it again. That man, if they randomly needed to call in someone who was willing to put in 150% every single time they hit the field, and they had an absolutely like massive injury concern at 8 with no Visa, no Honeycomb, no Low, all those guys, I'd chuck Jandre Rudolph in just to give it a little bit of an X factor from the 8 in terms of just that gas tank. He will go for the full 80. And anyone who hasn't seen that man in action, Jandre Rudolph, number 8, you'll know him when you see him. He's one to keep an eye on. Bet he gets red carded now that I've said that. Whoever imports the Sudanese will dominate rugby. They're 7-foot average. There's Cyrus there, and also we've got their morning Hamish. There's Hammock. Welcome in. Hope you are doing very well. Who is this team's hard man, says Barry. See, I would say that in terms of the hard man for the All Blacks, in this lineup, I don't think it's too far from the truth to say Tui Pelotu in terms of someone who's going to put the body on the line. And I also do think that Peter Larkai's got that potential of being a real hard type of player for New Zealand. Anton Leonard-Brown doesn't normally take too much stick in the midfield either. And we have got the Rico hat-trick. See, Cyrus got to monetize, Hamish. Get over to the Rugby World Cup next year. Says Scott, and also I used an oven glove to wash my clothes once. That's a random fact. Cool story, but welcome in. All Blacks now making their way out onto the field at Loftus. We're only 9 minutes away from the start of this contest here, ladies and gentlemen. Anyone who is new, of course, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It is greatly appreciated you all being here for the final match of the Greatest Rivalry Tour. Before we get into the test matches, we have got there, do you know, out of the 61 players the Box have played since 2015, 91 of the minutes were occupied by 30 players. Is that really depth? CA Sports Unfiltered. I'd still say yes. Like, we've seen a lot of rotation across the Springboks team as a whole, but there are a lot of guys that haven't been given a lot of game time. And Bros Papi is probably a perfect example. You chuck him in the box again, and I think he would do excellent things. But it's whether or not he gets those chances. As a Kiwi, Hamish, are you feeling more confident after the first couple of matches? Says Stephen. I think that for New Zealand, the development that they've made throughout this test, or this Greatest Rivalry Tour so far is good. And it's something that has given a few more New Zealanders confidence. I'm still in no way, shape or form underestimating South Africa though. And actually next week early on, hopefully, on about Monday or Tuesday, we are going to release a video on the channel of our final prediction of the Greatest Rivalry Tour with the 4 tests around the corner. So be sure to tune in for that one. That will be a little bit of a what score I think it's going to be in terms of the 4 matches for the overall series total. And then alongside that, a little bit more of the head-to-head between the sides too. We have got there some big lads in the Bulls squad. All Blacks got this, says Bronze Man, and more of where they are on the field. The game is being played, please. Or when the game's being played, please, says Pegger. We will try our best. But they are about to have the New Zealand national anthem. We are 8 minutes away from kickoff, so anyone who hasn't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button as there, as it is greatly appreciated. You guys all being here. Definitely those who are waking up at random hours of the morning to be able to watch this game. There are going to be some random start times throughout the rest of this Greatest Rivalry Tour for the South Africans. An 11 p.m. kickoff for that last game taking place in the USA. For us Kiwis, it's a 3 a.m. start for the first 3 test matches. I hope you guys do enjoy all night as we have got the Arenia's fear about choosing the team, no favourites. Says Mick there, man for man. All Blacks are taller and heavier, says Barry. And 30 points win for the All Blacks, says Sock. And there too, but we will go through that Bulls lineup once again. In the front row, it's Tishak Finney, Juan Els, and Francois Klopper. As that number 3, Ruan Vermaak alongside JF van Heeren. JF van Heeren, a player with a bright future, I would say. Vermaak's kind of more of an older, well, not really hugely old though. He's still got plenty of game time under his belt too, but he's quite a physical type of lock, so definitely one to keep an eye out for here. Marcel Kutsia at 6 as the captain, Hanro Leibenberg as the 7, and Jandre Rudolph. I've mentioned it many, many times. That man's one to keep an eye out for. Anyone who hasn't seen him in action from New Zealand, like, he is one who, I don't know, he just has something about him. He has a player look of the 1980s or the 1990s about him as well. He looks like he's almost in the wrong era of the Bulls, playing from the number 8 jersey. But Ambros Papi and Kerwin Bosch will be the 9 and 10 combinations. Ravino Jacobs out on the left wing. Harold Foster and Stedman Khans as the midfield, with Tucker Abrahams on the right and Willie LaRue at number 15. We have got the Numia Holland Segner will all score today. My 2 cents says Billa there. And the veterans in the 15 jersey, yeah, Bowden Barrett, Billy LaRue was not a head-to-head that many people expected to see. Old timer singing, really singing that anthem, says Matsu Tendai. And I think All Blacks by 12. And how are you feeling this game will go? See, I've been I think it's harsh on the Bulls. I've said New Zealand by 31. Don't get me wrong, if this was the strongest Bulls lineup and they had recent form in their pocket, I would say this would be a lot closer. But I just feel like for this one-off game for the Bulls, it's still a pretty makeshift team, even though there are some superstars across the 23. I think it all comes down to how Ambrose Papia and Kerwin Bosch play. If they can be relatively attacking-minded across those two men, they have a decent chance here to keep it close. And I'm hoping it's a lot closer than the 31 home South Africa. But All Blacks by 19, says LaRue for his prediction there. And also we have got the Bulls going to get matadored. And 31-ish. Yeah, it sounds harsh, right? And I'm normally one of those people, I thought the Bulls were going to have a decent chance in that URC final. But they ended up losing that game by 28 points. In fact, I think it was more than that. It might have been 29 in the end up against Leinster. So for me, I still feel like there's enough in this Bulls side to keep it close for a start. But then that's where we'll see the gas tank tested for both of these sides. We do see a couple Springboks will be making their way off the bench. And Elric Lowe alongside Johan Krobela, late inclusions into the South African or this Bulls side. And Bryce to score first. And All Blacks by 36, says Luke Spanner. And there too. But the greatest rivalry tour, as we hear the South African national anthem being sung, it is well and truly underway now. New Zealand having 2 wins from 2 up against the URC sides. 38 points to 21 over the Stormers and 54-0 over the Sharks. There is still plenty to happen. Less than 7 days' time. In fact, in 7 days, we will be talking about this was the score at the full-time siren of that matchup. That is how close we are to the first test starting up. Lions as that midweek game, and then 3 test matches on the weekend, including the last one in Baltimore in the US of A, to close out this greatest rivalry tour. We have got there, let's go the Bulls, says Jason, and up the Eels boy, says Cyrus, and also Billy LaRue and Bowden Barrett, both washed. They must be good mates, says Johnny Blaze there. LaRue and Bowden Barrett meeting again, whoever the F started up the Wars. We have got there, if this is closer than the Stormers, mission accomplished. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I think that if the Bulls can keep this one closer than that Stormers game, they would say, yep, we've done all right here. But at the same time, with the fact that this is at Loftus, I feel like the Bulls have their own personal, I don't know, they feel like this is where they should be able to defend, if that makes sense. Because it is altitude, people always say that must be a big advantage to the home team. The Bulls will want to try and prove that, listen, this is not our strongest lineup, but we are still the team that we once were. We are the team that made it to the final of the URC. And young lad's crying, it's going to be a good game, says Matthew there. Yeah, see, for a lot of those guys, that will be one of the first times hearing their South African national anthem and being able to sing along to it while getting ready for a match. But Cody Taylor is leading the haka here. He is the captain as well for this contest. A lot of experience across certain positions for New Zealand in this matchup. Cody Taylor returning. Does he still have a spot in the test match team with the form of Asafua Moore and Samisoni Taukei'aho? Yes, sir, preach, says Gold Story. But anyone who hasn't already, we're 2 minutes away from the kickoff. Let me know your score predictions for this game. Do you see the All Blacks getting the job done, or can the Bulls cause an upset for this final game of the greatest rivalry tour before the test? Cody Taylor fired up at the front. He will be more than happy to be back, but you just hope that they haven't rushed him back into this. You see Cam Roigard, Will Jordan, Damian McKenzie, all men currently dealing with their own injuries. Is Cody Taylor 100%? Or have they taken a risk here? I, Hamish, enjoy this, says Daryl. Cody Taylor, he will certainly be enjoying time he spends out there on the field. They have got Samisoni Taukei'aho as his replacement off of the bench. And speaking of spots, head up them knives, says Sock. And also, how's it, Hamish? Let's go the All Blacks. Hey, Hamish. It's keeping Bosch, the son of Hero Bosch, the great South African 10. Or Kerwin Bosch, that would be. And yes, he is in that number 10 jersey. A recent signing for the Bulls, I believe he was at the Sharks. I don't think he's had a team in between that. And we have got the AB, says Nazi, and Cracking Haka, says Dunk. Yeah, they do seem fired up for this contest. They are just showing Josh Jacob a massive opportunity for him in the starting side here. And the All Blacks 34 for the Bulls 14. Says Yandre and go the Bulls, says Matsu Tendai. You have the Huckers anything to go by. I think this is going to be a quick start between these two sides. The Bulls, they are known for being physical. Can you see a selection of Richie at 15? About Jordan and Morby on the wings? No. I think if they were going to have Richie in the starting lineup, he would be at 10 and then Love would go to 15. But I also do think you're better off having Mo'unga ease back into the side and have him make his way off the bench rather than chucking him in the deep end from the get-go. And morning, Hamish, I know I said I was going to miss the first half, but I did go to sleep at 6:50, so I already had enough sleep. Says Josiah there, so it is great to have you on the stream. 1 second, I'm about to sneeze again, so I'll very quickly mute before we get underway. We are good. I missed the unmute button. Oh, we have got the I like cheese from Jason. That is good to know. What type of cheese, Jason? Be specific. We have got there, got to defend New Zealand, go the All Blacks. Says Mick there and go, boys. We got this, says Michelle. And there too, but we are 5 seconds away from the kickoff of this contest. Like I mentioned, in 7 days' time, we will know who won the first test match between New Zealand and South Africa. But for now, we're into this Bulls versus All Blacks match at Loftus. Nicely taken by Rieko Ioane and stepping around Stravino Jacobs for the first carry of the day. Unless you see Stephanie there. And also up the AB says Josiah. And also 100 Hamish Love 10. Mo'unga 23. If it were that early, says Bella. Now, rolling this ball back is Cortez Ratama inside of the All Blacks 22, looking to go down the middle of the field rather than finding touch, and Stravino Jacobs runs it at Rieko Ioane, who has got quite a bit of experience playing these URC sides from his most recent stint at Leinster. Kicking behind from Harold Foster, looking to play a bit of territory. Jacob controlling it at the back, and he will go for the kick and boots it into touch. It'll be the first set piece now opportunity of the day. I don't know what to expect from this All Blacks team. I just need the high balls being secured, and scrum dominance is what I want, says Josiah. And also we have got there, looks like you got the flu poncho. Don't think so, I just sneezed twice. And Kerwin Bosch played in France for 2 years. Has it actually been 2 years since he played for the Sharks? All referee has to try and dodge that ball, but the first line out of the day is unsuccessful for this Bulls side. One else just overthrown it a little bit. Ratama going away to the right-hand side. Leonard Brown, side of the 22, will go for the boot. Downfield again. And ball sits up for Willie LaRue, the veteran. At the back, goes across to Theka Abrahams. He had a stint at Munster. Has had a little bit of a slip there as he makes contact with Taylor. Ross Papier back across to Willie LaRue. Popping it in behind Kerwin Bosch. Moves it on to Stephen Khans. New Zealand caught a little bit on defence, but a good tackle by Leonard Brown. Round that halfway line, and Bros Papier back across to Bosch. Round the halfway line at the moment for the Bulls, losing a few more metres off a missed pass. Billy LaRue looking for the cross kick in behind. Morby has to run back to retreat and has done nicely to be able to control it. Here's Yandre Rudolph on the ball and wins. Does he win the penalty? No. Concedes the penalty there, Rudolph. He was lightning quick on the ball, but Amisha Kelly has ruled it as no release from him. We have got their lucky penalty there. Says Nara Boy, a morning from the Philippines. Can't wait 1 a.m. here. This should be a harder challenge. Says Anna Pinta there. I just hope both teams have fun, says Hunter. That's the main thing, of course. Fun. We want to see some fun out there on the park. Yeah, Yandre Rudolph just didn't quite get those hands up enough in that scenario for the referee's liking. And now the All Blacks 22 metres from the line. This is a big opportunity for them to get their first line out going. Straight away, the Bulls are being told to not close that gap. Let's go. Says Cyrus there. 3 minutes into the contest, Cody Taylor. These are his first 3 minutes of the greatest rivalry tour. Suffered the calf injury in the game against the Irish. Nicely taken by Patrick Tuipulotu, and the All Blacks set it for a rolling maul. Now Larkai pops it up to Segner. Moves into the 22 of the Bulls. Now Ratama popping it up with the inside ball to Josh Morby, to Jacques Vene. Bit of a counter ruck, couldn't quite get it. Peter Larkai trying to test his luck round the side of the breakdown. Segner still moving forward slowly but surely for New Zealand. Xavier Numia, his first carry of the greatest rivalry tour. A lot of players all kind of stuck on each other at the moment. In the breakdown, Fabian Holland, short side, good, powerful carry. Only had the one game, or a new advantage against the Bulls now. Of course, there's the Stormer there. And Segner and Larkai getting stuck into their work, says Nara Boy. And at the end of the day, for me, Larkai, Segner and Satiti are all fighting for the same position. And that is that bench spot up against the South Africans in Test match number 1. Tackle was completed on Ratama. Still that penalty advantage in play. Oh, Yandre Rudolph almost able to get a steal again. They're in a new advantage in favour of New Zealand. Holland with the offload, going to Ioane, moving it on to Anton Linder-Brown. Flick pass out the back, finds Jacob. Retreating here is Leroy Carter, back to about 35 out, and they'll return for the All Blacks penalty here. What time does this rugby game start? It started about 5 minutes ago. They are still playing. New Zealand will have the penalty inside of the opposition 22. All Blacks going to play, says Hunter Prime. And also, we're with the amateur. How do you not release at that level, says Cyrus. And we don't want fun. We want to win at all costs, says Nazi Williams. And come of the All Blacks, says Josiah. But the penalty awarded to New Zealand for the Bulls being offside. I tell you what, both sides obviously have decided that even though it's at altitude, they're going to play at the normal tempo that they would want to. But Ruan Vermaak, the man, they get penalised for that one. Now line out just short of the line. As well, Jordan playing? No, still got the back injury, but should be back for the first test maybe. Did Rudolph get pinged for not releasing again? No, that time I think it was offside that they went with more recently after that. But it was close to him getting penalised. It seemed like it was that same breakdown or that same play that they did give the advantage. Currently still going for the rolling ball here in New Zealand. It was halted for a second. That's a knock on from Cortez Ratama at the back of the scrum, at the back of the maul. And the Bulls now get themselves the scrum feed. How can English sport compete with other nations? England is behind in every sport, says Stephen. Hello, Stephen. Oh yeah, I've got there, my lungs are busting just from shouting at my TV last few minutes. And good defence, says Matsu Tendai. Yeah, well defended by the Bulls. They are known for their rolling maul and also managing to defend it nicely. They're John there, the total pack weights. New Zealand have a 30 kg advantage with a 935 kg pack. Similar to what we saw in their game against the Stormers. They have gone large for this contest. Altitude is how you approach life in general. I got attitude is good at work, I think is what Hunter's thinking of. And we have the All Black says Andre there. I've noticed the lack of replays from the TV providers in South Africa, says Nada Boy. Now told to use it. 5 metres out from their own line. Here comes the run from Harold Foster. They move up to 15 metres out from their own line here, the Bulls. And Ambroise Papillon getting ready to fire this one back into the pocket. And he will go himself, in fact. Kicks that one into touch, nicely taken by Morby. Of course, you get that little bit more distance at altitude as well. See Eldrick Lowe, Johan Grobbelaar, 2 men who were added into the bench relatively late for this matchup. Oh my days, Ratama is useless here. Roy Gunn and Preston are the first choice and second choice halfbacks, except no minutes for Ratama. Or expect no minutes for Ratama, says Josiah. And also altitude is thin here. You can't breathe and then you die, says Sighted. Now ready for the line out of Cody Taylor. And I feel like this is quite beneficial for him. He hasn't had a lot of game time in recent times, Taylor, and now he's getting to do his main craft quite often throughout this contest. Big shot on Anton Linder-Brown by Kutsia and Bosch. Now Tui Pelotu, not afraid to run it straight into Juan else. Ratama up to Segner. Another carry from the All Blacks number 7. Ratama back across to Holland. Pops it in behind Jacob to Ioane. They're moving sideways and there's actually going to be a penalty here by the sounds of it. Penalty to the Bulls. A call from the assistant referee. A neck roll from Cody Taylor. And it's going to change the direction of this game and the momentum, could argue as well. And New Zealand 45, the Bulls 23. Unfortunately, I can't stay for the whole game. Just a friendly reminder to stare at the camera when you take a sip of water, says Christopher. And Kyle Preston just took your number spot. Number 2 at 9. See, that's the thing. After the way that Preston played last week, I was sticking him number 2 anyway. In terms of the All Blacks order. Says Hunter, so we're going to see it here, the clean out from Cody Taylor on Yandre Rudolph. Just got him round the head and then pulled to the side. Who's getting the first yellow? Well, the All Blacks, their discipline early on in contests has been a little bit shaky, so they have to be careful not to be the side that get the early yellow. But I would say if you're just picking a random day at the office, I'd say either Ruan Vermaak or Yandre Rudolph if it's going to be a Bulls player. Ball stolen by Segner 10 metres out from his own line. Nicely done. And it does give New Zealand back with the control of the ball. I can't shout at 5 a.m. Around here, you get the machete, says Nazi, and agreed about Taylor. He probably feels he needs to lead by example in this one, says Mark. Welcome to Loftus Kerwin, says Ian. A nice clearing kick from Cortes Ratama, but Segner just straight on to the ball. Okay, Justin Marshall just saying there that Segner maybe could have been penalised for that breakdown for having it on the second go rather than the first. And Greedy Samish says, Gert, welcome in. Line out to the back, Juan else. It's gone straight into the hands of Marcel Coetzee, who will break off the back, gets through the tackle of Cody Taylor. Now Lakai, though, in the breakdown for New Zealand, almost managed to rip that ball away, but it is still on the side of the Bulls, and there's an advantage now. It's turned into a rolling maul. Looks like New Zealand are going to be able to shut this one down, which will then become the penalty. And Greetings Hamish says good. And Cody Taylor drop into third for our hookers, says Lewis. Well, the thing is, right, this is a controversial statement, but I believe based off current form, he was already third. I think if you look at Super Rugby Pacific, and even the July internationals, it's going to be a very interesting choice for Rennie, whether or not he sticks Taylor in for experience, or whether he goes with a Safwa Moore and Samasoni Taukiaho for form up against the South Africans. And Anton Segner, a beauty, says Ants plays, and the Bulls have decided to go for the 5 metre line out here. Look like the All Blacks may have engaged a little bit too early in that maul, but they've been able to shut it down just for now. But here comes the momentum. Juan Else hanging on to it at the back. He's about to score against the All Blacks. The Bulls are claiming it. The referees don't seem to have a grounding as of yet, and it looks like the Bulls are accepting that it might have been just short as they are 1 metre out. Or are they? Okay, referee might want to have a look at this. This might have a grounding from the looks of where that ball is for Juan Else. And we have got the good evening, mate, says Felicia, welcome in. Hope you're doing well. And the Bulls on fire, says Julian. And the Bulls are a strong side, says Adrian. It's all from that neck roll, isn't it? One moment when New Zealand's ill-discipline crept in again, and it has currently resulted in them getting themselves about 6 minutes of defence in a row and potentially a try. Okay, so Carl Dixon, touch judge, has said that he was initially short from what he can see, but he's not sure what's happened after that. So they are going upstairs to the TMO. And I'll go upstairs, Fleshin. And there as well. And if Marcel Coetzee played for the Stormers, he would have been part of the box squad past 3 years. And the Bulldogs says Jason to go the Bulls. Right. Here's one house. I'll tell you what. He got pretty close. Then he got shuffled back just that little bit by Xavier Numia. Can we get a time check? Currently 11 minutes in. The exact time, we've got to wait a little bit longer. Just because they haven't got the clock up at this point in time. But that's very close to the line. Maybe just half an inch short. And then eventually managed to wrestle his way over. I'm picking Lakai to have a big say in the game. Take the Kokomoro home as player of the day. Which rugby club used to have a Coke and a Moro as their player of the day? I think we got a certificate. And that was it. Look short, says Dunk. Good morning, Hamish. Looking quite fresh considering your vampire lifestyle, says where you at, GT. Okay, no evidence to overrule it. If you had to be totally honest with no BS, what did your heart tell you who will win? I think the All Blacks will win it. But they're definitely making it hard for themselves early here. And going to be bringing on some of the main guys today, says Shalima. Right, so it is going to be a scrum feed for the Bulls. It became an unplayable because they wanted to check it. So because of that, it means that they have got the 5 metre scrum, which actually puts them in a very good position to be able to get a bit of a push going here. And good evening, says Yalopi. Welcome in. And 3 minutes wasted to establish what they thought in the first place. Yeah, they did have a thorough check. But 11 minutes in. Back line. Oh. I'm thinking cross kick could be on the cards here, ladies and gentlemen. Or at least if I was the Bulls, that's what I would do. But it's whether or not they also look at Yandre Rudolph off the back of the scrum as the other option. I was watching the first few seconds on Discord, but the sound wasn't good. See, it's DMX there. Now the big push from the All Blacks. And the scrum that is not theirs, and that is a huge push from the All Blacks 4-pack. That's a statement in the first scrum of the day as the All Blacks win the penalty against the feed. We have got their deep fry Moro Yum, says Cyrus. And also Feisty Start says Dunk. And Huge Scrum says Nuttaboy. Anyone have a streaming service you can point me towards? I don't mind paying, but I'm in Finland. Finland, it might be on World Rugby's YouTube channel. I'd definitely say have a check of that first. And then Rugby Pass TV is another one that it might be on. Other than that, I'm not too sure what your other options are, but I definitely check those two first. And they're actually both free to wear, which is great news. It's even worse to watch in China, where you can't use a VPN to watch rugby, but I can't go to a website without a VPN, says Claire. And Kelda from Germany says, Tar, welcome in. Toi Pilotu claiming that line out. Now Larkai off the back gives it to Segner, who again is in the action early. Andre Rudolph offside. So the penalty advantage in favour of the All Blacks again. Oh, Ratama thought about a quick tap, but he did fumble the ball. Now it looks like Leonard Brown's considering the quick tap too. Sadly, Rugby Pass the South African commentary, says Smeg Malicious. And also Cody Taylor has a gash under his eye. And also, unfortunately, can't afford the electric bill, so no replays. Says Rob G. But it's a good take at the line out. It's one part of the game for New Zealand that has not been struggling in this tour, which is fantastic news, as it was one of the shakier parts of the game last year. And also, Springboks are trembling with anticipation here. Less than 7 days away from the first match getting underway of the tests. I can't believe how quickly it's come around. You know, it was only a month or two ago that it seemed like it was forever till we got into this tour, and now we're 3 matches in. Still moving. Cody Taylor, the ball in hand with the rolling maul. It's looking relatively strong for New Zealand in terms of the meters that they are making, although getting a bit of sideways shuffling going now. So Ratama uses it, goes away to the left-hand side. Segner pops it up to Leonard Brown. Jacob Carter looping around on the left-hand side. Pace here off the mark. Bowden Barrett out to Morby towards the corner. Great step and a great finish from Josh Morby to New Zealand. Get in for the first. But just a nice backline movement from New Zealand there. And Bowden Barrett with the try assist. Are we over there? Jacob is only a few games in. Bowden Barrett wouldn't make the team, says Cyrus there. And close to the A team, says Jeff. Or is this New Zealand's A team, or is this considered their B team? I would say this is their experimental side. About maybe 5 of these guys will play in the first starting lineup against South Africa, but there won't be too many more than that. It's nicely taken by Josh Morby towards the corner, and the step back in. And you've been going to the gym, you got the shoulders. Says Nazi, I think I'm just slouching. Might be more so that. But I had a gym membership. But then there's a wee story behind it. Now, going away to the right-hand side for Bowden Barrett. Pretty much, I got a 3-month membership, didn't go much. I went like 4 times. So I definitely didn't get my money's worth. We have got the I like Bowden. Says Nazi, it's Morbin time. Says Smeg. And Josh Morby for the win, says obvious. But a good finish. Conversion does not go over. So 5-0 for New Zealand now. Nicely taken by Rico Ioane. Leroy Carter moving away to Larkai. And this seems to be something that New Zealand like to do. Get a few passes inside of their 22 right from the kickoff. Away to the right. Jacob pops it up to Bowden Barrett. Away to Carter. Now Ioane finds himself out wide. He's got 3 men on the inside. He's going himself. Ioane passes to Barrett, who wants the flick pass. Ratama manages to get it almost for New Zealand, but it's kicked forward. Picked up by Hanro Leibenberg, and it becomes a foot race between him and Holland. Goes almost, oh, what a mistake from Fabian Holland, and the Bulls may have just scored. Holland had a fumble at the back, but it was more so the fumble from Ioane and Barrett, who both missed their passing opportunities. Ratama probably needs a bit of the blame too for the fact that he didn't claim the offload from Barrett. And just like that, the Bulls are back in the game. But what a massive mistake from the All Blacks. I think they just want to check this one to make sure that it's all right. But a lot happened in a short period of time there. Cody Taylor's asking for them to go upstairs, and I think that's just to try and save the All Blacks from the embarrassment of that try. And Yamihi Otiata Mai Aotearoa says it was there from Ono. But an awkward bounce there. It's a knock on from Billy LaRue, actually. Looking at the replay there. But Fabian Holland, he did all the hard work to get back there and then just slid right round the ball, which was interesting. We see it there. He did all the hard work of winning the foot race and then just tried to slide on it. He didn't actually look like he got anywhere near claiming that ball, Fabian Holland. Right, TMO check. I want a brain dead offload, says me. Well, I think it was first off the fact that, oh yeah, there's a knock on from Billy LaRue anyway. So they're going to be safe. Great commentary. I wish you could watch it, but the streaming services are wise to VPNs. Finland is just too far into the wilderness. Sansa will share it in a day or two. It is what it is, says RL Finland. Yeah, I definitely recommend... Oh, what websites do they have? They have a few websites that say what your options are. Should have given it, but it was a knock-on. So they can't really give it for a clear knock-on, although to be fair, we've seen clear knock-ons given before. Average fumbling the scoreboard. Scoreboard's still correct. It was hesitant to give it by the looks of it, and it was correct to do so, as it was in the end ruled out. This is why I keep saying that Richie Mo'unga must be the teacher. Guy Ruben Love, says Dylan. But Ruben Love's not on the field. It's Josh Jacob at 10 at this point in time. Now ready to get the scrum going. Isn't that a penalty for offside? If it was a knock-on. Says Matsu Tendai. I think he was he behind initially Handro Labenberg? He must have been, right? I'm reading for the boys, All Blacks, says Mashihu. And Ash, to be fair, says Dunk. Scrum feed for New Zealand inside of the Bulls half, but a little bit of a nervous moment for the Kiwis there. Senior Ioane have started well. Yeah, it was a good run from Ioane. He just needed to link up with Carter, who was going around his right-hand side rather than going inwards. Now backline movement here for New Zealand again. Jacob moves it on to Bowden Barrett out to Morby. Beats one defender. Gets through a second. Dragged down about 40 metres out from the Bulls line now. Ratima fires it across to Lakai, who had Simon Parker in support. New Zealand look so flat today, Hamish, says Stephen Pope. Do they? I feel like with the exception of that little breakaway from the Bulls and also off the mistake of Cody Taylor that led to 5 minutes of Bulls attack, they seem aggressive on the attack at the moment, New Zealand. That's a loose ball. Ratima looking towards the referee rather than looking at the breakdown, and Yandre Rudolph got in there and managed to steal it for this Bulls side. Marcel Kutsia now hits it up the captain. Now Papiel, that was rush defence from Xavier Numia, maybe a little bit too quick. We have got there, the pass was flatter than an naan bread. Says Xander trying to kick him behind. Holland cleaned it up, but then now maybe has just knocked that one on. I think we'll be going back for a scrum in favour of the Bulls. Although it seems like it's just going to be play on as the call. So Ambros Papia looking off to his side. Go back into the pocket and Billy LaRue will kick this one downfield. Is unable to find touch with a nice torpedo kick from LaRue down towards Bowden Barrett. Was on the All Blacks 22-metre line. He will go for a chip in behind himself. A little bit of height on it. Carter goes up for it and takes it nicely. Now out to Ioane. Open space to the right, but Ioane cuts back in and runs at Billy LaRue. Now Ratima recycle quickly. Bowden Barrett out to Leonard Brown. A lot of arms involved in the tackle there from Bosch. LaRue rushing up to try and get that intercept. Couldn't quite do it. And he still... Where did he end up, Billy LaRue? I'm looking around for him. I think he's on the far side now. Yandre Rudolph making a low tackle on Simon Parker. Pick and go from Tyrell Lomax for his first carry of the day. 5 metres out, Holland popping it across to Leroy Carter. In behind to Bowden Barrett. Delays his pass. Gets it out to Peter Larkite. Bumps off one. Ball on the inside. Morby's got his second. And the All Blacks are having a field day down that left-hand side. We have to get there. Rico will be in the first test because Aaron Shoulder, stating the obvious, says, and Ozzy Williams, come on guys, you can do this, says Patricia, and they have just got themselves another one there in New Zealand. Like I Butte, says Dunk there, but it was the run back from Bowden Barrett. He went for that chip, and for once, it worked. And Leroy Carter doing well under the high ball. We talked about the absence of Caleb Clark now for New Zealand. Does Carter's ability under the high ball maybe put him into that lineup? Up against South Africa in test match number 1, but a good finish from Larkai. Just got rid of Thaka Abrahams, who hardly was able to slow him down. And then the ball on the inside, unselfish from Larkai, who's also trying to put his name in the test equation. New Zealand's double there. We have got there. Let's get this kick, Bodie, says Lewis, and it is a very similar angle to his last one, and this time Beauden Barrett does add the additional 2. After 20 minutes now, New Zealand lead 12 points to 0. We have got there, bro. Your play-by-play is seriously top tier. Thank you very much. Speak Malicious. 37% Dreamers here, says Kiwi Sports. Willie can't play contact. He's bad. They should keep him on the sideline and let him give the guys water. And Barrett playing in the first receiver a couple of times, and Acker's speech continuing Jake's legacy. Yeah, chances did not take it. Same story all over and over. Now for the big hiding season again. And the worst thing is for the Bulls, they're losing a lot of those top guys that they did have. Oh, missed pass from Segner, but great hands from Beauden Barrett to be able to pick it up. Kicking downfield, hasn't managed to find touch, and now the counter-attack coming here for the Bulls. Missed tackle from Barrett. Ratima trying to get in that breakdown. Ambros Papier pops the ball up to Francois Klopper. Of course, when talking about absence from the Bulls, no Wilco Lopa next season. He's signed with the Stormers. Papier goes up to Ruan Vermaak. Now Kutsia driven backwards in a dominating tackle from Fabian Holland. Ball was loose for a second. Clean back up. Segner on it for New Zealand. He doesn't manage to get that steal again. LaRue pops it up to Juanels. Almost had the first try of the contest for the Bulls. The exception of the knock-on, LaRue. Now, Tika Abrahams, long way off the wing. Wrestled down by Holland. And Morby hat-trick, says Cyrus there. And also, was LaRue born before Moses? Or at least King David says Kevin. Ratima isn't our best 9, but he's 100% maximum effort. Now Papier up to LaRue, sets up the inside ball to Stedman Hans. New Zealand aren't missing too many tackles. Segner right on the ball and wins the penalty. Tell you what, there is a traffic jam and a half at the moment when it comes to the loose forwards for New Zealand. You've got Larkai stepping up in this game, Segner doing the same. Who does Rennie go with? I think he's going to go with Jacobson in his starting lineup because that seems to be the way that he's been going. But who goes off the bench? A very nice conversion, says Cringy Cook. And go the All Blacks. And Segner, says Lewis, but nice work from Anton Segner again. Just straight onto the ball, no clean out coming. And kept his body position low enough too to avoid that shot to the shoulders like Billy Proctor took in the last game. Nicely taken by Segner at line-out time. Throughout Super Rugby Pacific, he actually claimed more line-outs than a majority of locks in the competition. Jacob moves it on to Josh Morby. Now Leroy Carter cutting back in. So the All Blacks move to 35 metres out from the Bulls line. Ratima back across to Beauden Barrett, moves it on to Taylor. Nice sidestep from him. Yandre Rudolph wins the penalty there. It's going to be Larkai this time penalised by the looks of it, although it might have actually been Tui Pelotu. And Vili LaRue decided to waste no time. He kicks it in behind. And just keeping it in the field of play was Josh Jacob. It would have been a brilliant kick from LaRue. Would have put the Bulls 5 metres out from New Zealand's line, but the key word there is would have. But now the Bulls back on the halfway line. Here comes the run of Kutsia. Ratima putting in the effort to make the low tackle. Papier looking left. They've got about 4 on 3 here, but Foster decides to hang on to it. Only 2 tries on the board for New Zealand, sitting 12-0. Segner, easy man of the match so far. Says Broderick there. Now, wide cut out pass from Kerwin Bosch out to Tika Abrahams, who has knocked it on. And it's a double knock on in the end, so New Zealand will get themselves the scrum. Disappointed with that one. Tika Abrahams looks quite slippery out there at the moment. We're seeing a lot of slipping and sliding from both teams in this scenario. If you were the Bulls coach, would you have sacked Vili by now? I don't know. I know that Vili LaRue, he has his moments, right? Where he is absolutely phenomenal, but he has had a few shaky moments. I would definitely still have him in some sort of coaching role, though. How big does the crowd look? Bud says Terrence. At the moment, it's not sold out. I'd say maybe 70%, somewhere around there. Oh, what are we doing now? Time is off. The touch judge wants something checked. Oh, no, substitution. We have got there Rudolph the Red-Nosed Bull. And the thing I remember is that game in the World Cup was disciplined against South Africa. which was bollocks. Says Shalimar. Ratama is on borrowed time with his delivery speed. He's slower than one-legged snail with a hangover. Says Ray. I learnt the other day that worms don't have noses. Just talking about snails and whatnot while we've got a little bit of a break. That's my random fun fact of the day. But they can still kind of halfway smell in terms of their surroundings. Block break says dunk there. But it is going to be the scrum. I'm wondering who this is actually making their way off the field. This doesn't look good. Says Patricia. Who is the sub? I'm still looking through at the packs. They look the same. Tishak Winnie's still out there. Ruan Vermark. Okay, whoever was the player who they said about subbing doesn't seem like he's been subbed, unless it's someone in the back lines. It sucks to be a worm. Says dunk there. And Villaroo can still, with the best of them, says Jason. How big does the crowd look, buddy? About 70%. Is roughly what I'd say that it's sitting at the moment. There are a few empty seats around the place. This game, 13 degrees Celsius as the temperature. Ratama now popping it up to Parker. Manages to spring back up to his feet and have another crack at the Bulls defence. Ratama left-hand side out to Segner. Bit isolated by himself there. We have got there Villy as a proper, says unbiased. And also the Bulls look the worst in attack out of the South African URC teams. Says Captain Awesome. Well, the thing is, they had their big chance, didn't they, to score? And then that scrum happened where New Zealand were able to win the penalty against the feed. And it feels like from there, the momentum has completely moved. Now down towards the 22, taken by Thaka Abrahams. Good acceleration from him. As the tackle's made by Ratama. Now Papier, way to the left. Villy LaRue moves it on to Yandre Rudolph. He'll go for a grubber in behind. Now grub it again from Kerwin Bosch. What a pickup that is from Bowden Barrett. So they'll go back for the initial advantage. And Jacob will soon summon his Crudiness superpowers and wheel the boys behind reach. Says beyond reach. And watch the All Blacks win this game. And come on the Bulls. Says Tanya there too. It's been a humid winter here in South Africa. Says DMX. Yeah, it might be quite dewy underfoot for these two sides. All quick taken by Villy LaRue as the Bulls were well set. They had 4-on-2 out to the left-hand side, but a great spot tackle made by Peter Larkai. Now Papier cross. Villy LaRue just smacked the ball straight into Marcel Kutsi, who was not ready for the pass. Jacob now looking to boot it in behind, wanting that 50-22 for New Zealand, and he gets it as well. Brilliant kick from the young first five. I never met Anton in my life, but I'm so happy and proud of him. Says Nazi Williams. I'm sure the Williams were searching for random Hamish facts too. Says Stephanie. And the Bulls say are not going to make us proud. And the All Blacks are meaning business with this tour. Says won't believe everything here. They seem to have those little improvements each and every game. There are still a few errors along the way, but that's the exciting thing about those test matches is we're going to see both sides adapting on the fly. Okay, so it's Tishak Vinny who they actually did want to check out earlier, and now he's decided to go off the field. Now, Josh Jacob going up to Anton Leonard-Brown. Andre Rudolph trying in that breakdown to take the momentum away from New Zealand. Bowden Barrett pops it up to Xavier Numia. There is also now the advantage against the Bulls from within their 22. Now Ratama searching for that ball again. It is available. Bowden Barrett looking for the cross, kicking back. No, going up and under. Morby chasing after it. Couldn't get there, but they did already have the penalty, the ABs. Kerwin Bosch says Dune Rugby. And Cruden and Sonny Bill Williams killed the Super Rugby, says Cyrus. And Barrett says Lewis. 27.5 minutes through. That kick maybe just didn't quite have the distance on it that Bowden Barrett would have been after. This is where we do see Sitoli, I should say, sorry. He is out there on the field replacing Tishak Vinny. Cody Taylor, though, line out 5 metres out from the Bulls line. This is where New Zealand can be dangerous. Here we go. Taylor says, "Nada boy." Good work, Hamish Super says trio there. Thank you very much. Line out now. Thrown in by Taylor, taken by Tui Pelotu. Seems like New Zealand at times have been a little bit indecisive as to whether or not they want to drive with this maul or pop it out straight away, but Taylor is only 1 metre short of the line now. They've got numbers to the left, wide cutout pass. That one looked like it was going forward from Ratama, but there's going to be the advantage. They might be unlucky to get a yellow card here to the Bulls for the man retreating, Cody Taylor. Looking off to the right, Ruan Vermaak making the tackle on him, almost turned it into a maul. Some good physicality from the Bulls, number 4. Ratama fires it away right. Jacob with the little stutter step, trying to sneak his way through. This Bulls defence to Epolotu, pick and go, makes a couple extra metres there for New Zealand. Segner again having a bit of a crack. One more pick and go, and I think New Zealand score here. Holland going to be half a metre short. Harold Foster told to get out of it. Now playing halfback is Leroy Carter. That's something that might actually happen later on. The charge down of Josh Jacobs. Keeper Bowden Barrett runs it himself. Off to Rico Ioane. Offload back to Leroy Carter. Inside ball to Jacob. They're keeping it alive for now, New Zealand. Ioane pick and go. Gets a little bit isolated, but Ratama gets in the breakdown. Protects the ball for New Zealand. Segner, they're 12 phases in. 10 now. Simon Parker, short ball to Holland. His hands have let him down again. And they'll go back for the penalty, which is, like I said, more than likely going to be the yellow card. Fix the score. This is the score. It's 29 minutes through, 12-0 for New Zealand currently. In fact, now the scoreboard is too far ahead. We have got their lovely Amish says Sash Bro. And Patrick Tui Balotta for the first try says Iron Villy the Roo is going to run straight to his car after the game because Marcel Kutsia is going to donor him because of that pass. And also the altitude starting to kick in, says Lewis. Yeah, so it is a yellow card now coming for Francois Klopper here. And Holland needs to chill, says Dunk. And also the Bulls, if the Bulls also get nilled, Holland has Butterfingers. He's had a bit of a rough day with the handling today, Fabian Holland, which is not normal for him. Definitely because he actually had his really strong game last week up against the Stormers. But you almost wonder whether or not for Holland, like he's already starting to have a few puffing moments. Maybe this is the game that people were expecting to see from him last week in terms of like a bit of roughness being first game back. But it seems like he had his blinder and now he's having his rough game. Great commentating as usual. Says Benito, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. 5 metres out from the line now. New Zealand have got themselves the scrum. And we see there again another change. That is going to be Kutha Machunu, who will make his way on. So that is going to be for Labenberg, and the reasoning behind that is because of the yellow card. So they had to get another prop out there on the field. All Blacks definitely over jet lag. Bulls will be feeling it. That was a short try. Holland just dropped it, says Kiwi Sports. 30 minutes through. It means that the Bulls will more than likely still only be playing with 14 on the field at the end of this first half. This is a big chance. Larkai off the back of the scrum could be an option. Or do they go with that back line? Handling errors are going to happen. When the Jew is out, says DMX. Another reset here by the looks of it at scrum time. Yeah, and the Jew does seem to be quite heavy for today. We've seen a few players having a few slips and slides. And also, like you said, quite a few handling errors in the early stages. We are coming for your next, says Cyrus. And Holland just dropped the game there. Rennie will sack him soon, says Xander. And we have got their Wozes. Well, that's the thing. Where does Holland fit into the test? Because he did extremely well in his last contest. So you wonder whether or not there is a chance that Fabian Holland can find a way maybe off the bench or even in the starting lineup. I think that a lot of people wouldn't have him in the starting lineup with how he is going here, but the big scrum from New Zealand, sitting 5 metres out from the line, advantage being played. Now Ratama waiting for it, leaves it for Larkai. I don't know if that was actually legal, the way that New Zealand did that. They're over the line, held up as the call, but they'll go back for the penalty in favour of New Zealand again. This one 5 metres from the line, impossible for the All Blacks to beat the Springboks, says Martin. And Holland is gassed after his big sprint. Yeah, doing that type of run without altitude is one thing, but then playing it and running it at 1,350 metres above sea level is probably a different equation. Looks like Cody Taylor is going to opt for the quick tap here rather than going for the potential line out. Tap taken, got about 3 of the balls offside. That is a veteran move from Taylor there. You're not allowed to feint, but he did almost do just that. But the finish for Taylor And the try is scored by New Zealand there. 17-0 now, the score. And try says Kiwi Sports. And the drop-off is too real. And it will be Holland come test time. See, you're not actually supposed to do that, I don't believe. In fact, that's been one of those ones that slightly got outruled at one stage recently, wasn't it? In terms of you're not allowed to feint a tap, you instead have to just tap it at the time. This is getting ugly again, says Hunter. Stop giving Bowden Barrett the bloody ball. We'll be fine, says Gary. And I Hamish says, Paul, welcome in. Hope you are doing well. Josh Jacob now with the opportunity to line up a shot at the post rather than Bowden Barrett. Interesting that they've switched. And the scenario, dummy tap, says Ali Wood. A balk. Says Nada Boy. That one misses away to the side for Josh Jacob by New Zealand. Or by 20 New Zealand, no chance. That was a cheeky move, says Meg. Yeah, I'm sure in some competition, we've seen it recently how they'd rule that out because of doing the fake as if you were doing it. Never make errors like that facing the Springboks. You will be punished. Can you do that, says Net Noddy? I don't think you're supposed to, but it's been allowed there. 2 Cents was trying to say a 30-point deficit seems too much. Don't think so. I overrated the Bulls, says Kiwi Sports. But it's easy to do because the Bulls supporters know this very well too. Like, you've got 2 Bulls sides that either show up. One that goes really well and can win games, and the other that have games where they just don't fire. And I feel like that's the tricky equation for the Bulls supporters is which one's going to show up. We have got there, that's why I like your channel. Just listen, your arrogant historians. Joy while you can. Says Trudy there. And he is in your head. Says Trudy there too. It's surprising, or is the greatest rivalry games being broadcast free in New Zealand? Sadly not. We are through Sky here in New Zealand. And lately it looks like match fixing, the way the refs are doing their job, becoming unpleasant to watch. So looking it up. Now, Mbros Papier ball is available here for the Bulls, about 35 metres out from the line currently. Now to the right again. Kerwin Bosch just didn't quite have the options to his right-hand side that he was after. Mbros Papier, again moving it across to the replacement Sitoli. Tui Pilotu, and their breakdown, ripping it away for New Zealand with the clean steal again. Now Holland, back across to the left-hand side. Cody Taylor with a skip past Rico Ioane again. Skipping it out to Josh Morby, who's already got himself the double. Yandre Rudolph, and that breakdown wins the penalty for the Bulls. That's the type of one that he wanted earlier on. Just got pinged for it with not releasing that other time. This time gets it here for the Bulls number 8. Another steal, says Kiwi Sports. Are you going to comment on the game, says Philip? We are doing a bit of both. We have got there also, there's a surprise for the Springboks. Watch the space, says Gary. There's a book about match fixing in the NFL called Interference. Rudolph wasn't sporting his weight, says Nada Boy here. Yeah, see, the thing is, he probably was hard done by in his last one. So you'd say that one 50-50 has now gone his way rather than the last one that didn't. So I think we'll call it even for Yandre Rudolph today. But 4 minutes remaining of that Bulls yellow card. Nicely done. Taken at the front by Jaya van Heeren. This one's not really moving forward, though, for the Bulls as of yet. So they're going to be told to use it by Nika Mushikeli. Now Papier. Cross to Harold Foster. Pick and go. Juan else tried to, and he's knocked it on in the process. Oh, it is back to the scrum feed. Okay, Juan else has just said there, why is it a knock on? Referee said, because you touched it. Juan else said, I didn't touch it. Referee said, I think you did. We're going to get to hopefully see a replay of whether or not Juan else did get a hand on that. Yeah, he's touched that. And they've just shown on the replay. And Mushikeli made sure that Juan else knew that he did touch the ball. The scoreboard says, Michael, currently 17-0 in favour of New Zealand after 36 minutes. The Bulls can't beat Leinster. All Blacks bullied Ireland. To do the maths, says Joji Masi. Do you think the All Blacks will beat the Box? I think that the All Blacks will beat them in at least one test. But we are actually going to be doing our overall preview of the 4 tests a little bit early on next week. And that is where I'll give my overall tour prediction in terms of the 4 match, what I think the overall tour end score will be. Ball goes in for Cortez Ratama, and it's a good solid push from New Zealand. Lakai going away left-hand side now. Ratama, ball on the inside of Jacob. Quick off the mark. Has Lakai with him. Oh, just the knock on though from Lakai. Looked like he was almost going to be able to pick it up one-handed. We have got there, how many in the crowd tonight? About 70% of Loftus, I would say, if I had to guess. But hopefully they give us the crowd attendance a little bit later on. Nena's really having a shocker. I mean, in that situation for the knock-on, he was right. Juan else did knock it on, so he made the right call there. Put Richie in. Says Sash. We have got there, can you speak Afrikaans, Hamish? Because your pronunciation is very good. I can only say Yau Leka Ding and also Baya Danki. That's about all I've got in Afrikaans at the moment. What do I have to do to get you a mark from 2 sets to get a preview together? We've actually done a couple videos before. Fun fact, we actually, back when New Zealand were playing South Africa for the Rugby Championship last year, we had a debate about which side would get the job done. It was like a 50-minute video. The Box overrated, says Kiwi Sports. New Zealand have their best chance to beat the Box in the first test as the Box are rusty, says Jon Nettling. Now, going quickly with Mbros Papia after they managed to win the penalty of the Bulls, but now they've given the ball straight back to the All Blacks. Anton Leonard-Brown, rush defence on him, but he gets it away to Leroy Carter, who cuts back in off the wing, looks for another offload. It's risky stuff from New Zealand, and Satoli managing to take the ball back. Now 1.5 minutes remaining of this first half in the contest. Ruan Vermaak tackled by Patrick Tuipulotu. Billy LaRue, the chip in behind, attempted Bowden Barrett, waiting for the bounce of the ball, and he manages to outpace LaRue as well. Now kicking it downfield, and that is an excellent clearing kick from Bowden Barrett there. Now we have got there, Ninashvili, Georgian ref is truly incompetent. I never liked him as a ref, always second-guessing his own calls. Says Johnny Blaze. And also, at least this ain't going to be a hampering tonight, says Stephen. And also, it's about the 5th terrible offload by the Kiwis. Yeah, it seems like at times they're trying their best to go that little bit too quick. Our best English commentator, Yalakading, says Benita there. And also, New Zealand has the skills to take your manhood from you, says Pilla. And none, 0, absolutely nothing, says 8888. Nice line break after that illegal Oh, Johan's back. Now Juan else ready to throw the ball in, nicely claimed by the Bulls line out. Currently 20 seconds remaining in the half. This will be very interesting to see what they say or what they do here. In fact, they're not going to get a choice because that has been a counter ruck coming from New Zealand who take the ball back. Peter Larkai with Anton Leonard-Brown on his outside. Bowden Barrett now sells the dummy, ball on the inside, risky offload that hasn't quite paid off, but Larkai cleans it up and resets it for New Zealand as the halftime siren sounds. Cody Taylor moving it to the left, Jacob onto Barrett, Leroy Carter, he's had quite the game so far in this matchup. Now Ratama up to Rico Ioane. Looking for the steal there in the breakdown, unable to get it. Rush defence from Kerwin Bosch shuts down the chance for Ratama to be able to move it. Now Lomax receives the inside ball from Leonard-Brown, moves up to 7 out. Now Leonard-Brown again, another good solid carry from New Zealand's inside centre. Pick and go from Morby. Now Ratama looking for the ball, gives it off to Tyrell Lomax. Another advantage now in favour of New Zealand. Leroy Carter, couple metres out, up to Lomax, still just short. Xavier Numia looking for the ball, gives it up to Holland. No look pass to Cody Taylor, who's over the line now for New Zealand as they get try number 4 at the end of the first half. I notice how the All Blacks can play 9 to get the ball out fast, says Albert there. And also, I told you 24-0 at halftime, says Kiwi Sports. Cody Taylor, he's still got that nasty gash under the eye. But it's a nice pass away to the side from Fabian Holland, who does get the assist. We have you there, 24th minute, Leibenberg with a stoppage. Says Scheme there. And also we have it there, 24-0 halftime, let's go, says Josiah. Cody is enjoying the game, says Mashihu, and the kick has gone over from Jacob as well. Now the score, 40 minutes through this match, 24-0 in favour of New Zealand. And Taylor's fighting for his jersey. Good job, says Lewis Williams. Yeah, after that early neck roll, it seemed like Cody Taylor, I think he was dropping down certain people's pecking orders. But from there, he has had a pretty solid half as a whole. Almost feel sorry for this Bulls team, but not really. Says Shalamur. Cal's complaining about their own offside players. Says Scheme, and also Numia cloppered Klopper and keeping him clopperless. Says Johnny Blaze, although Klopper was off the field for a little bit of time, but Numia has had quite the start to this match. It makes it interesting, though, because at the moment, I think loose here prop for New Zealand, everyone's going to group number 1. For you guys, out of Norris, out of Numia, and out of Bauer, who's your secondary loose here prop that you think will play up against the South Africans? They ain't getting 50 today, says Stephen Pope. Well, they're currently almost halfway there with 24. What an embarrassment, mind you. They did the same of the URC final, says Mike Marine. Numia destroying the scrum, says Scheme there. It's going to be 50 again today, says Sasha. You're a great commentator. I'm listening to you rather than Justin Marshall. And watching TV feed in Ireland, and they have South African commentary, no on mute. Listening via this feed, Magic, says Philip Ball there. And absolutely Numia Hamish, says Scheme. And it seems interesting that they've waited until now to give Numia the opportunities. It's as if they've decided that they wanted him maybe fresher towards that stage of the start of the tour rather than chucking him in early, getting some minutes for Bauer and whatnot. Does anyone have a health update to Mighty Williams? From the sounds of it, his recovery is going well. I don't think there's been any speed bumps as of yet. Still out for a little while. We have got there, I thought the hits will be harder to beat. And also Numia scrumming out of his skin. I don't blame the ref. The Bulls are playing bad. Period, says unbiased. And yep, Hamish commentary better than TV, says Albert. And rumour has it Eldrick Lowe is still running to cover his channel. And the All Blacks have debt, says Driss. And when you're done with that shirt, I should be hung in New Zealand Rugby Museum. Morning, Hamish, says Lawrence there. Welcome in. Yeah, we've been wearing this shirt without the tie quite often. But the reason I don't have the tie is because you guys can't see it anymore. Like when I'm slouching like I have been, you can't actually see that I have a tie other than maybe like that little tiny bit there. So I've just been going tieless. I would still say the people in New Zealand don't talk. They only make noises. WTF, can't they talk their own language? Says Johan. You're an interesting one, Johan, I do have to say. You always surprise us in terms of some of the dumbest stuff that you do say. We have got there smashing us, says Dan. And not even Michael Jordan can save the Bulls from here, says Shalimar. And also national team scrumming well against the provincial side. Shocker, isn't it? Well, it kind of is in a way. Only because of what happened in that Stormers matchup. Because in that game, New Zealand were out-scrummed. So, you got to take the good with the bad. In terms of, this is actually a much better scrummaging performance from New Zealand than we have seen in some of their other tour matches. And New Zealand have improved their scrum in the maul. The real test is against the big mighty Springboks, and hugely disappointed with the Bulls. Accuracy has been terrible, says Justin there. And how's it, Hamish? Great from St. Francis Bay is here again. And also, weak franchises, Stormer Sharks and the Bulls getting smashed. How nice. And also, time to heat up my pizza, says Albert. And Joshua said, I get it, Bulls are playing bad, but the ref is very clearly overlooking calls on the New Zealand side. Says Joshua there too. And Espock are watching this. They're scared stiff. I don't think they will be, to be honest. I think that Rassi has really, he's got a pretty safe and confident side that he's got as a whole. So I don't think that, don't get me wrong, they'll be looking at this game and saying, okay, New Zealand are in a better position than we thought they might be for that first test. But at the end of the day, New Zealand versus South Africa is always going to bring the best out of the players. I feel like we're going to see that in 7 days' time. Like I said before the door, the provincial games will just be training runs for the All Blacks. Just have to show up, says Kiwi Sports. Looks like that South African has to do his bit of a tattoo of the All Blacks. He made it on TikTok, says Big Kiwi. And no, Amish, it isn't. Good scrum isn't early. Wake up, says Johan. I like how you were saying that New Zealanders can't use English, and then your grammar there has been absolutely shocking. We've got there all the South Africans talking up the Bulls. Stormers did way better, says Carl. And also we have got there anything dumb Johan can say. I can say something dumber, says Hink. And also destroying the breakdown. And also Johan. The offer getting dropped by Hamish. And also we have got there Rico played himself into Test 23. The question is though, where do you play him? Do you play him? I don't think you can play him 13 because you've got Quinta Pyre at the moment. And I'd say that Leroy Carter, in my opinion, has also played himself into the 23. So maybe we would see maybe Ioane off the bench, potentially. But yeah, it's a very tricky one. at this point in time, because I would also argue that Leonard Brown's almost done enough to feature somewhere in a 23 for the Kiwis, but he's probably not starting. We have there lots of comments regarding New Zealand playing the weakest South African franchise. Any comment, Hamish? Well, I do think that these are depleted URC teams. And I do also feel like if we saw the URC lineups that they had throughout the season, score lines would look pretty different. But at the end of the day, I don't think that New Zealand can take the blame for the opposition they've got in front of them. But similar to when people say, oh, they only won because they're playing a B team and everything like that. You can only play what's in front of you. And that's what New Zealand are doing here. They are facing a Bulls side that seem a little bit, at times, not on the same page. Seems like there's a few miscommunications going on in that back line between Bosch and LaRue, as well as when to pick and go with the forwards. So we're seeing New Zealand be able to expose that a little bit here and make the most of those opportunities. Now, I do think that if the Bulls can stay disciplined in the second 40 and start to find their rhythm, this could actually get a little bit closer and they could score their first try of the match. But I just don't see a way that the Bulls come back into this game without something drastic changing. The same guy that is getting the tattoo challenge said that the Bulls' forward pack in the back line was way better. Says Josiah. We have got there. Do you feel like New Zealand hit the 50? I think they will, because we have seen New Zealand speed up in their games. So, again, it comes down to what the Bulls do. If the Bulls are aggressive early and they fire back a little bit, like we're seeing the carry stats and everything along those lines, New Zealand having almost 3 times the carries. They've beaten 4 times the defenders. We talk about the altitude being a factor in the later stages of the game, but I can tell you right now, the side that are making a lot less tackles, less than half than their opposition, they will be fresher as this match wears on, and the Bulls at this stage, if they are not careful, will have a very fatiguing last kind of 25-30 minutes of this matchup. Rico on the 6-2 says dunk there, and the whole All Blacks pack looking good. This ain't even our best squad, just like the box. The depth is looking good for our boys. Looking forward to next week. And good old rugby, says Blue Cobra. And there as well. Who scored, please, says Mohadeen. So far in this game, we've seen the 4 tries from New Zealand, 2 from Josh Morby, 1 from Cody Taylor, and then the other try was scored by... Who scored the other try? For New Zealand. I'm just looking through at the lineup. So Taylor scored. Josh Morby got 2. Why can I not remember the other try scorer for New Zealand? Who scored the other try for the Kiwis? Someone let me know, because I can't even think of it. Was it? No, it wasn't Ioane, was it? It wasn't Barrett. It wasn't Ratimer. Was it No, it wasn't Larkai, I don't think. I've missed about 100 comments, by the way. Holland scored, says Xander, and Taylor got... Oh, is that why I can't remember? Because Taylor's got the double as well. Taylor too, says Bounty there. And how about that ridiculous yellow card, says Finn? Yeah, I actually feel for Francois Klopper there. I don't think he was cynically offside. He was just literally retreating. And if anything, it was probably going to be a forward pass from Ratimer anyway. Can you imagine Crusaders capitulating like this versus the box? Never. Kiwi Pride says user there. I don't say anything bad about the box. They are the benchmark right now. It's becoming embarrassing, says Michelle, for the scoreline. Morby 2 and Taylor 2. And ridiculous yellow cards. They suck, says Rolink. And also 2 each, says the AI underdog pick. But the second half, New Zealand, like I mentioned, they have had a lot of stats in their favour. South Africa making double the tackles throughout this game. And RC is hiding. Too embarrassing, says Mick. You can see how the All Blacks come out in the second half with the high altitude. And that's the end of the Springboks. It definitely is not the end of the Springboks. And I would say that, watching this game from the Bulls in this scenario, this, to me, doesn't affect how South Africa play in the first test at all. We're going to see a couple Springbok make their way off the bench, and Johan Krobela, as well as Elric Lowe. Outside of that, though, this is a very different side to what we're going to see next week for South Africa. South Africa will be much stronger than this. And I think when it comes to that set piece, they are really going to be pushing New Zealand. So, these warm-up games up against URC sides, they are great. They've just got there. New Zealand have not conceded a point in 122 minutes. That is a very impressive stat. Where's all that debt South Africa talk about? Says Boone. They are still currently with the Springbok side But I do think that certain players for the Bulls have been able to step up. And the thing is, in the second half, you're going to see certain guys stepping up too. More than likely, Krobala and Wilco Low. And the reason that they are stepping up is because they are wearing that green and gold in the near future for the test matches. I take Peter Steph because he's got that height and size over Richie. Heart only goes so far when Bigger has heart too. And the Box are not going to pump the All Blacks. Open your eyes, son. The All Blacks are not going to pump the Box. That's why this is going to be so freaking good. Exactly right. Like, it's going to be an epic 4 matches, the Bulls in pre-season. Says Nick Noddy, and how is Billy playing? Billy's had a bit of a struggling game. As a whole, New Zealand clubs have so much more depth and pride than South African clubs. Better off touring UK if they want rivalry. Says user there. Yeah, I don't think they can squeeze in another few matches in terms of the overall calendar year, though. The channel like button, I need some help from the viewers, says Lawrence. Yeah, anyone who hasn't already, be sure to hit that like button. We have got plenty more coming up in the near future on this channel. Next week, got the Greatest Rivalry Tour opening test match between New Zealand and South Africa. Our provinces would put up a better fight than the South African provinces, says Kiwi Sports. Although it's very easy to say that without the match taking place. I have to say, don't get me wrong, a few of those NPC sides are in pretty good form. I'm looking forward to that Ranfurly Shield Challenge next week, Canterbury versus Northland. But at the same time, also got to remember, for the Kiwi sides currently, you'd argue if they were to play now, with the fact that they're at round 3 of the NPC, they'd have a lot of chemistry already. They'd have their pre-season out of the way. For the Bulls, they wait 6 weeks till their URC first matchup, and we will see them get better throughout the season as well. This game's over. Bull supporters will be going home early, says Charles. And up the wire, says Johnny Blaze. We have got the air, don't talk nonsense. South Africa is not afraid of the All Black, says Sandra. Yeah, I think those first test matches are going to be absolutely epic, and I think they're going to be relatively tight too. And I think it's you can underestimate the opposition all you want, but at the end of the day, once they go out there for those 80 minutes, it's going to be absolutely incredible. I think the Kiwis commentating here have looked at the first 3 games, really false sense of what's coming up in terms of our box, says Paul Roy. Absolutely. I think that the Springboks, they watched that game up against Argentina, and people go, oh, well, they didn't go that well. But that was their first hit out for a little while. And then from there, I feel like we're going to see big improvements. The forward pass is now legal, says Matthew. Well, talking about things that were illegal or legal, I thought that feinting to go for a quick tap was illegal now. In a game of rugby, or at least it seems to be in some competitions. I thought that Cody Taylor's first tap try would have actually been ruled out if we were basing it off the laws that have been, I guess, kind of enforced throughout other matches. We don't know about the box. I don't fear them, says Kiwi Sports. And also, I'm from Durban, South African club sides still suck, says Cool Story. And we're going well, but the second half may be different. That's literally just sport, guys, says Sarge Brew. And All Blacks looking good training. Their scrum and set piece, we know we can score tries. The winners barraged if New Zealand quickly in the second half, that we see the entire bench come on before the game is over. Well, see, for me personally, I'm watching that first half, right? I'm seeing what Leroy Carter's doing throughout that first 40, and I'm almost saying, you know what? He could find himself in that test match. Same with Josh Morby. So I think you take one of those guys off at halftime for either Amoni Naro or Timothy Tavanawai. I don't think there's much point risking injuries. And in fact, if Morby is considered as a 15 option for that next game, if Damian McKenzie is not back rearing to go, I think you chuck Morby off at halftime. You say, look, you've done your job. You did what you needed to. We like what we saw. Now you're more than likely playing that match next week. Last thing you do is give him the extra 40 minutes and end up with an injury, and then you're one player short again. And let's go. The All Blacks, says Mondo there. Defense not good enough. She'll be 35-0. Says Math there. We have there Jordan Burr's stream. I can't find it. I didn't know he did stream. I know he does videos, but I didn't know he did live streams as well. How do you think Ratama is going? Ratama's had a mixed game so far. He's had some decent moments, but at the same time, I would say he still had a few shaky ones too. You don't know what we know. We are analysing for the first test, says Nicholas Jordan. Yeah, I think both of these sides are going to be doing extensive research throughout the next week or so, watching all the little moments and the breakdowns and the set piece and the pods, and working out exactly what they can do to try and break down their opposition. I do think that the Bulls haven't tested New Zealand under the high ball enough as of yet, and that is something that I believe the Box will be doing as we're seeing that slightly exposed in the game against the Stormers. And Bros Papia from inside of the 22 as the second half gets underway. We're looking to kick this one infield rather than towards the sideline. Nice take from Morby again. And once more, like I said, I think you take that man off earlier rather than later. And we have given notice how South Africans now saying this Bulls team was never good. Before the game said they could beat the All Blacks, and a penalty won by Andre Rudolph again in the breakdown. We have got there, up the Ratamus says, Harry, would you run the risk of having Fihi cover wing and centre if Morby is starting? I think more than likely centre and wing cover they will give to Rieko Ioane. But I also think that X-Factor-wise, Fihi's probably got that advantage. But realistically, Rennie has backed a few veterans throughout his selection so far. So I would say we'll probably see him go Ioane as that option off the bench. And then you've got that wing as well as centre cover too. I mean, someone else who covers both, Timothy Tavatava-Nawai. You could put his name maybe in the equation as well. And Patrick's looking tired. Yeah, I think there'll be a few men looking a little bit tired out there on the field. And for New Zealand, again, you don't have to risk these guys. Now, big run from Ruan Vermaak. Stretches out and scores the tries. The Bulls strike in 90 seconds at the start of the second half. And that is exactly what they needed to do. They have broken the zero. And good try, says Nada Boy, came from the penalty. Won by Andre Rudolph. And then from there, the line-out set piece looking sharp for the Bulls. Dropping it off the back to Ruan Vermaak and Morby. Just getting run through as well. Oh, hang on. Okay. Hopefully he's got that over the line, Ruan Vermaak. He's actually short in that angle. So hopefully there was some sort of grounding of that ball. Oh, no, they're checking it. We don't like seeing, like, that's something, like, we've already had 40 seconds of the shot clock. That's when you check it as the TMO. You don't need to wait until they show the 50 replays. You already have access to those. But they're going to go up now. Come on, TMO, cancel the try. There must be something wrong. Well, the thing that's wrong might be the fact that he's short of the line. This has gone up as a try, though, so they need some sort of evidence. Right, that's short. That's pretty, very close. We're going to see another angle. Ruan Vermaak ate the line with his face. I don't think he's got there. I think he's going to be half an inch from that line. And unless they can find some sort of aerial angle which will show something different, all of these angles are showing that that ball just marginally was short by half an inch initially. Oh, we got another. Oh, that's so close. But I think the thing is, right, on-field decision was try. So you're in that scenario that they just need some sort of chance that has touched the line and they'd give it. It looks close, but I think he's going to be just short. Just give the try, man. Says Wildlife. Yeah, they've looked at it now 10 times. Is there any part of that ball touching the line? I think it's going to be no try. The ball is grounded short, so it's going to be no try. Ridiculous, says Fenn there. Ruan Vermaak not happy with it. There's Clear Green, says Megalicious. The ref was there bending 2 meters away and he gave it, says Allywood. Double movement, says Kiwi Sports. And now I see confused All Blacks team. Who to play in the first test again, or great against a URC team. Hands up, box waiting patiently, says Nicholas. And nothing is a nothing, says Nicky there, but that'll be no try for Ruan Vermaak. And it now means that, wait, never mind. Try is given. Try is now given. They've found another camera angle, which is, I think they've just said, which is better than the camera angles given. And it is going to be awarded as the try. The kick has gone over from Kerwin Bosch. And that is now going to be the 7 points for the Bulls here. And overall, the TMO says bronze men there. We have you there. He was in possession, so can't be a knock-on, says Sash. We've overturned the TMO, says Wildlife. And that is something you don't see too often. Now, in the first half, people were giving Amashikeli a bit of stick, but he has been decisive there. Oh, Ruan Vermaak smashed absolutely smashed over by, I think that was George Bower and now Lakai, 2 metres short of the line. Preston, he is on the field. So New Zealand have made their changes. I see Taukiaho's out there. George Bower the same. Preston, I'm just looking through to see if they made any other changes. I believe the locks are still the same. There's an injury in back play too. Bowden Barrett, Josh Jacob goes across to Rieko Ioane, drawing pass out to Leroy. Oh, Leroy's had a shocker there. He's gone into touch and he doesn't even realise it, Leroy Carter. Too casual in the finish there, and I don't think this is a try. There was no evidence he couldn't award the try, and the on-field decision was try. Says wildlife there. We need more refs like him. Perfect decision. There is no way you can say that was clear and obvious to overturn. If it was the ref in Argentina, England, we would have tied it. Says Argent Swiss. But yeah, I think Leroy Carter has had a really big mistake here. It looked like he was pushed into touch, and he's claimed it as a try. He's sure that he scored it. Is he seeing something we aren't seeing here, Leroy Carter, in the way that he's finished this one? Right, he got pushed towards the sideline from Harold Foster. I think this foot goes out. Oh. I stand corrected. He has somehow managed to keep his heel off the line. Oh, no, that stud does slightly touch the white line. But I think they're going to do the same as that last one. An on-field try, I believe, is going to stand. No, he dotted that. Says Speculicious there. Okay, no evidence to overturn the on-field decision of try. So try will stand for Leroy Carter. And it's the finish for Leroy Carter. But he should definitely look at that and go, okay, next time just put the ball down when you're there. We have it there tighter than 2 coats of paint. Says Rugby Jackal looks good, says Cringy Cook. And just touching the grass, says cool story. That was not a try. Which one? The Ruan Vermark one or the Leroy Carter one? Because the thing is, the crazy thing is, we've had 2 tries that have been a bit 50-50 in just the last 2 minutes. That kick from Josh Jacob will miss away to the side. We have got there, English is not my third language, says Johan there. Well, you certainly know how to criticise the ref in English, Johan. We have got there, he was in the car park, says Rugby Jackal. And also, I absolutely love him, Musha Kelly, best ref in the world by far, says Argent Swiss. And both decisions are correct, says Cringy Cook there. And I'm the ref try, says Shannon. Nicely taken by Tui Pilotu on the 22, but New Zealand now get that lead back to what it was just prior to that Bulls try, 29 points to 7. Rico's hand says dunk. Kyle Preston looking away to the right-hand side. Carter's putting his hands up for the bench. Yes, I think that him and Morby have both done very well here, and Rennie's going to have a tough decision. Now, there is a chance that Morby starts. We concentrate on the Springboks. What about the rest of our club system? It's collapsed. Our rugby not up to the standard, says Donald Carr. Although when the Springboks are playing for these URC sides, they are a lot stronger. 3 out of the 4 were in the finals of the URC comp, with the Sharks finishing 10th, just narrowly missing out. But 5 tries for New Zealand compared to the 1 of the Bulls. Willie LaRue going away to the right-hand side. Skip pass from Kerwin Bosch round the halfway line for the South African. Steedman Hans cuts back in. Low tackle on him by Leonard Brown. Ambros Papier back in field to Johan Robela. And Segner managing to rip the ball clean off him. He's also having quite the day at the office. Larkai, quick hands out to Jacob, looking for the grubber in behind. Chasing after it was Carter, but the ball just bounces into touch rather than infield. We have there a lot of hate in the chat. Can't we just enjoy the game, says Jade? Yeah, it seems like tensions are high, aren't they? But that is because of the fact that the test match is so close. I think that some people use, like, their way of showing emotion towards the game of rugby is to either badmouth the other team or just complain. But I think that it all comes from the fact that this has been marked as a massive series. And at the end of the day, for like, people my age, this is their first chance to see what a big, like, real tour is like for quite some time. But I think people, again, don't know how to express their excitement in a way that doesn't seem like they're really angry. Now, ball across here to the right-hand side. Chance for Leroy Carter. Chasing after him was Reniard Ludwig. Now, Ioane to Leonard Brown. Round the halfway line, flick pass to Lakai. Trying to get through Stravino Jacobs and Jayafin Hiran. Now Tui Pilotu, All Blacks all day. Says Shane there. Now Bulls there for Kyle Preston. Wait to the left. He had a brilliant game up against the Sharks just 4 days ago. Okay, wait for next week. Says Jade there. But up to the halfway line still for New Zealand. Preston goes back to Jacob, trying to sneak through the tackle of Johan Krobela. Already seems like he's up the tempo a bit for this Bulls side since making his way on. Rico Ioane, Waikato pass to Leroy Carter. Bryce Papia makes the tackle. Carter went for the risky offload and Stedman Khans was there ready to take the position. And Bryce Papia had 9 as a handy player, says Rugby Jackal. The last All Blacks tour of South Africa was 1996, right? I believe so, yeah. So that's before I was even born. The last time that we saw a tour like this taking place. Philly LaRue away to the right-hand side. Thaka Abrahams can't get through Lakai and Tolkiaho. Pick and go from Foster. Couple extra metres for the Bulls, but they are still only round the halfway line. Lakai over the ball and managing to get it back for the Kiwis. Preston short side. Offload to Lomax. He won't go for the one more. Out to Josh Morby there. We have got there... Richie Mo'unga play. I think he might feature off the bench maximum. I don't see him starting up against South Africa in the first test. I believe he's going to be actually playing against the Lions more than likely, from what Dave Renier said. Leroy Carter breaks the tackle, ball on the inside to Ioane, and that'll be another try for New Zealand. He sold the dummy as if he was going to give the ball to Preston, but he was never going to be passing that one. Ioane, the assist to Carter. And again, you've got Tamofi Tavanawai and you've got Amoni Narawa on the bench. Use one of them in the near future. Either take Carter or Morby off. They have done enough to show that they should be in that equation for that test match. The last thing you want to do is injure them now. Definitely with the fact that Carter's only coming back from a shoulder injury relatively recently, I think that you take him off now. Definitely because he's also your reserve halfback option in a way. Revised prognosis is 14.55. Says Rugby Jackal and Parker says dunk there. Josh Jacob, he's sitting 1 from 3. 33% kicking accuracy at the moment. Get Big Jim out there now. Says Megalicious. Over there, next Saturday will be different. It's payday as well. Whoop, whoop. Says Craig. Kick from Jacob this time does go over. And that is going to make the score now 36 points to 7. What a bad game. Says Laura McDonald. Yeah, sadly wasn't as competitive as the All Blacks versus Stormers match. My prediction was All Blacks by 31. We're not a mile away from that at the moment in terms of the scoreline. This is just a waste of time, says Sash. Maybe you were not born yet. But Brian Williams, Sid Going, Billy Bush became my heroes. Bushy Amoring the Boars. Legality on the rugby field, or legally on the rugby field, says Nicholas. That is going to be a mistake from New Zealand off the kickoff. So now 30 minutes remain and the Bulls with an attack 22 metres out from New Zealand's line. Harold Foster kicking it in behind. It's a bouncing awkward one. Morby, or no, in fact it's Jacob, has done well to be able to claim it. Pops it up to Leonard Brown. Will kick it downfield. And the ball bounces into touch on the halfway line. Agree with you, Hamish. Take them off, use your bench, says Lewis Williams. Well, you also got to remember someone like an Amoni Narawa, or more so probably Tavanawai. He's only had very limited minutes this tour. If he is called upon, is he going to have that great form if he's only coming off 10 minutes? Or if you give him about 40 throughout these warm-up games, would he have a much better chance? I think you get someone out there now. And I hear some music. Is that because the sub's about to be made? It looks like Josh Jacobs getting a bit of ankle strapping here. Right, Josh Lord is on. So they're making a change in the forward. I would say that a lot of these changes maybe are premeditated at a guess. So that is going to be for Patrick Tuipulotu, a man who I believe will feature for New Zealand in the tests. I've enjoyed myself much more than Tuesday. Says Sash there. Why use the bench if the players are doing good? Well, you use the bench because the players are doing good. You're in control of this game. Currently, New Zealand lead by 29 points. So if you can avoid having one of those guys go off with an injury when they are going to be a crucial part of New Zealand's test matches, I would say it's a clear choice to take them off. Now, Bowden Barrett grubbing him behind. Lee Ricardo chasing after this one. Can't get there. Vili LaRue almost bundled into touch, but he's done extremely well to be able to offload it to Thika Abrahams. Now Carter in the breakdown. And for that steal once more. Does Rennie hate Timothy? Says Smegalicious. I don't think he hates him, but Razor was the same. They hardly use Timothy Tavanawai. I guess it's because he plays 12, but he can play out on the wing as well. Maybe that's where you play him in this game. Oh, Josh Lord has just tried to leapfrog a South African player in the breakdown. Now taken nicely by Bowden Barrett at the back. Josh Morby straightening with his run. Offload up to Segno, who's had an outstanding game from that number 7 jersey. Morby across to Parker, puts in the fend. Haven't seen a huge amount of Parker throughout this game, with the exception of that last try. I feel like he's been doing a lot of quiet work. It hasn't been spotted. Josh Lord gets the hospital pass from Bowden Barrett, which leads to the knock-on. And we have got there, did Rico score? Rico did in fact score, yes. Number 12 and number 9 for the Bulls. So Ambros Papia being taken off, same with Harold Foster. Why not play Morby at 13 and Rico at 11? Says Sash. I don't think Morby's had a lot of experience as an outside centre, although that is somewhere that Justin Marshall feels that he could be quite crucial. Right, Paul DeVette is on, and so is Letebele. Are the two subs that have just been made for this Bulls team. And can the Bulls come back? I don't think so. I think they can still score again. It should be fast track to live TV commentary. Love your work, sir. Says Matthew. Thank you very much. And Bangladesh cricket team would beat the Bulls right now. Well, they're about to beat the number 1 test side in the world. The way that they are playing. Mona has been rubbish this game. You see, I think he's still had a couple good moments, but I don't think he's done enough to get a spot in the tests. Just based off this performance alone. Like, the way that he's been setting up the attack early on was actually doing quite nicely. But I don't know if they go with a replacement 10 off of the bench or whether they go with the 2 playmakers, maybe Love and McKenzie if they're available, and then you go with 2 guys in the centres and the wings. We have you there. Stop complaining. All Black supporters are here to win the conversation. Says Zeus there. And also, Bulls still in pre-season. Don't read anything into this game in terms of form, says Net Noddy. Yeah, 6 weeks' time, they are going head-to-head with Zebra, and I think it will be a very different one. Are you watching the game, says Kiwi Sports? I am, and that's why I've seen some of the attack that Bowden Barrett has done. Don't get me wrong. He's had a few mistakes as well. And again, depending on your opinion prior to a game on a player, sometimes you spot different things. So, like, for me, Bowden Barrett, he was actually involved in a few of the early tries from New Zealand, which I'd highly recommend. He just missed a massive tackle there, and Stravino Jacobs has finished it off, which is why I also said he's had some poor moments in this game too. But a great finish from Stravino Jacobs, who just bulldozed his way to the try line. We have got there, I'm watching the game as well as this, says Kiwi Sports. But yeah, like, it's like he's had some bad moments in this game too, but he's still done some good things. Like, we can't look at a full performance of this from Bowden Barrett as all negative. I feel like it's actually probably his best game of the year that he's played. How full is the ground, says John. About 70%, I believe, was where we were looking at. Missed tackle initially was Bowden Barrett. And then the second miss, well, Larkai's one you could argue wasn't really a miss because he half-by made it, but it was still in the process of Stravino Jacobs scoring it. Bowden Barrett has been up and down, not bad, says Mashihu there. And also I would say that the Bulls, or this is the Bulls 2 team, says Kyle, but now Kerwin Bosch just drifts that one away to the right. Let's say he's been the poorest All Black. Possibly close to it, but still not a bad day at the office as a whole. But yeah, he just didn't want any bar of tackling Stravino Jacobs there. Come on, Timo, something wrong with that. Try forward pass, there's Ian there. And also we have got there, they had to score next, says Cringy Cook. And this game now separated by the 24 points. Satiti makes his way on for Larkai. So it seems like Rennie's happy enough making the changes in the 4-pack, but nothing in the backs with the exception of the halves as of yet. D-Mac would have put his head into the spokes there, says Dunk. This one kicked down towards halfway. Nicely taken by Morby. Goes back across to Bowden Barrett. Has another mistake now. Ever since we mentioned how he hadn't had an awful game, he's had a lot of mistakes, but great work from Leroy Carter at the back. We have there my dishwasher and oven are both Bosch. Says Rugby Jackal. Ball's there for Kyle Preston. About 10 metres out from the line. Holland's going to be playing the full 80 here. Rudolph better than Paul. If he played for the Stormers, he would have been in the Bok group, says Ian. Now Preston with the clearing boot. It doesn't look like it's going to find touch, but Leroy Carter, that's forward from Trevino Jacobson to pull DeVet's hands. Looks like Kyle Preston has managed to take it back anyway, though, for New Zealand. Now Carter playing half. And away to Simon Parker. Jacob moves it on against Satiti. Goes to Bowden Barrett. Has Leonard Brown with him. Delays the pass. Now fires it to him. Morby decides to kick it downfield off his left boot. But it's a nothing kick. Straight back into the hands of the Bulls, who will look for a counter-attack 56 minutes through in this contest at the moment. Kerwin Bosch tackled around the halfway line. This looks to me, I like the starting lineup for New Zealand. I would say for New Zealand, nice run down the wing for Jandre Rudolph firing it back in. 5 of the players in the starting lineup will start against South Africa roughly. I don't see it being many more than that though, even though these guys have been stepping up, and you'd like to think Rennie would reward on form, but as they've mentioned, they've already got a test side selected, and then from there they were reversing back through the games and picking lineups based off that. We over there, Bowden Barrett got nothing on Peter Steph-Toy, bro, you mad? Says Sam, who compared him to Peter Steph-Toy? Yep, kick's not paying off, says Mashihu. Now ball off from Kerwin Bosch to Stedman Khans. And nope, they'll go back for the initial advantage here. As Edna's player of the match, this guy has a weapon, says Simon. But yeah, the big question is, does Dave Rennie give him the chance at 7 against the Springboks? Or will he go back to Jacobson like he has been using? The best players from New Zealand are playing a club team in South Africa, which I thought the club team would win, says Marcus. And the province is just not creative enough, says Sashi. I don't think the Bulls have gone aerial enough in this game. The Stormers almost laid out the blueprint as to how to expose New Zealand a little bit, although New Zealand with different players for the high ball in this game. Looks like Villiers dealing with a little bit of an injury here in the knee. We have there, why do the organisers put a national side against provincial B team? It is part of the greatest rivalry tour. And just showing people in the stands, they still look in good spirits at the moment, supporting the green and gold. And Baden is done for me, says Cedric. And also we have the high tackle, says Johan. And also we have the where'd you get that false news, says Sam R. Trades. I assume that's to sock with what he put. And also now we know why South African club sides left Super Rugby. They're just not up to it, but they've been doing well in the URC. I feel like for some people, they may have stopped watching the South African sides once they left Super Rugby. But since then, the Stormers won the inaugural URC competition. And a South African side has been in every single URC final. So, like, you can't say that they're doing poorly as a whole. Because, once again, this is a very different side to what we would normally see in the URC comp. But I feel like they're still showing some moments. This is going to be another good opportunity to score a try here for the South African side. Sitting 5 metres out from the line, Marcel Kurtzia. Is there a comeback on for the Bulls at this stage of the contest? We talked about the altitude factor. This is going very close. They didn't quite get the grounding. He tried to touch it on the line, but it just ended up popping up. And the final moment score at halftime was 24-0 for New Zealand. Already we're seeing 2 tries scored by the Bulls in the second half. South Africa would destroy New Zealand provincial teams. They'll be entertaining, says Shannon. And we have got there, which, if any, of the 4 tests do you think the All Blacks will win? I really don't see it being 4-0, despite what everyone is saying, says Brownie Paul. Well, early next week, we are going to be doing a video on the channel, which is my final preview and prediction in terms of that tour. And the thing is, be sure to tune in for it, because I'm going to have a little bit of a forfeit involved. And I'm going to let you guys in the comments decide, of course, on that video. You've got to comment what your forfeit's going to be. But if a certain scenario happens, we're going to potentially be doing a forfeit on the channel. The All Blacks are bad, says Kyle there. I never watched the URC, says Kiwi Sports. Yes, thoroughly entertaining competition. It was extremely competitive this year. We saw Ulster narrowly miss out in the final 8 because of Connacht's brilliant form in the last 2 games. That's a loose pass from the Bulls. Fabian Holland chasing after it alongside Anton Leonard-Brown. But first back there is Thika Abrahams, tackled by Leonard-Brown, who went for a bit of a counter ruck. The ball picked up nicely by Jandre Rudolph. And Bowden Barrett off Jamon, Morby to 15. And we have got there the Bulls rugby past 5 years, always close. But no cigar, says Ian. And yep, agree, the Bulls are a really good team. They haven't played since the final against Leinster in May. I won't judge them by this, says Brownie. One's kicked downfield from Kerwin Bosch and manages to find the sideline This looked like New Zealand may have been considering taking it quickly, but then I think they realised this game was at Loftus, so decided it's better to just wait. We'll have a forfeit. Please tell us more. So here's Matthew. And can't wait to hear this forfeit. See Brownie there. We're just seeing it there from Fabian Holland. A good bit of shift put in by that man. He looked like he was tired at about 20 minutes, but he's actually still going at 60 now. And we have got there, go hard All Blacks. Here's Henry there. So Satiti is currently on for Larkai. Lawaki's made his way on for Lomax. So that's the last of the forward replacements. We are still awaiting Amoni Narua and Timothy Tavanawai. We have got there, South African fans aren't mad that club teams didn't win. Just think New Zealand that low that they can lose a game. Cocky, that's about it, says Marcus. Now go on left-hand side, Kurtwin Bosch. Up into the hands of Letabelli. Recently made his way on. See, the only reason for me that Dave Rennie would leave the same backline on for as long as he has is if he's feeling like maybe he's going to use some of these combinations in the future. That's a good kick from the Bulls, though. That might be a 50-22 for the South African side. The Bulls, yes, it is. We have got there, the South African saying Bulls would beat us. You're right. Says Joseph Enrico is much improved player since he's stint at Leinster. And to be fair, Geordie Barrett did the same thing as well. He went over to Leinster and came back and seemed to find his next gear. Is Patrick still on? No, he was taken off for Josh Lord in this contest. You see it there, Morby trying to charge down the kick, or not really charge it down, but trying to deflect it. At a 50-22 for the Bulls. Oh no, not quite a 50-22, sorry. 25 metres out, but it is still the Bulls line out. We go get there 50-22 by number 22, boom. Says Matthew. And 50 years since the All Blacks have lost at this venue, 51 after tonight, says Lawrence. And watch them live in all his lengths of the games here. Good in the final, but otherwise meh. Says Rugby Jackal. I think it made it difficult, though, the fact that they kept on swapping him from the centres to the wing. He also had a really strong game in one of the Champions Cup matches, which I think was one that really opened a lot of people's eyes to what potential he had. And Don Zigno is going to go far. That lad has some strength. We have there, Hamish Rennie has given them game time for Wadey at altitude as useful preparation. You see, I agree that it will test the gas tank, but I just worry for someone like a Carter, how coming back from an injury recently, if someone gets injured now, it's going to be really unfortunate for New Zealand. Now, Josh Morby across to Anton, Leonard Brown. Now, Bowden Barrett passes the ball in behind to Leroy Carter. This is going to test out his legs. Running down the wing, holding on to it with one hand. Ball on the inside to Morby. Outside ball to Bowden Barrett, who has to cut back inwards. Offload to Leonard Brown. At the moment, it's all of the All Blacks backs getting involved, but the knock-on from Carter, 10 metres from the line. They went 80 metres, though, with that play. I wonder which All Blacks will be the next to go to Leinster, says Brownie Poor. I feel like it's got to be a back, right? It seems to be the backs are the ones that they keep on sending over. I'm trying to think of who it would be in terms of an All Blacks player who would suit the way that they play at Leinster as well. To be fair, Leonard Brown might get a chance if he's now back in New Zealand. As he reminds me of Cullen, right place, right time, moves well, great strength. We have got there, Hamish swapping him. Rico from centre to wing was unsettling. Prediction, final score now after 58 minutes. I still think New Zealand have got one more in them, but I also do think that the Bulls still have potential of being able to score another one. Will the All Blacks score 2 more tries? Maybe. Are you looking at that half century? Perhaps Bowden Barrett on the halfway line has got options to his left. Looked a little bit hesitant to use them. Tried to go himself and is tackled by Juan Els. Interesting that Juan Els is on the field as well as Johan Grobela. I'm not too sure what's happening there for the Bulls pack. Maybe Grobela is playing as a loose forward. Oh, referee was about to give a penalty to the Bulls. He had his hand up. He had the whistle in his mouth and then he decided not to. And now it's an advantage against the Bulls. Kyle Preston to Samasoni Tolkiaho of Lawaki on his flank. Now left-hand side, Jacob moves it on to Holland. Short ball, Segner. 2-man tackle on him. Now Preston uses it to the left-hand side again. New Zealand just finding gaps in this Bulls defence. Morby, awkward bouncing ball, just dodges him. He tried to kick it rather than catch it there, Morby. And the Bulls back inside of their 22. We have there, come back to South Africa. Or come back to Super Rugby South Africa. And there too. Now rolling this one back again for Paul de Vet. We have got there, I guess we must go back to Super Rugby, says John. That's a good clearing kick though from Kerwin Bosch. How much time is left? Still another 15 minutes remaining on the clock here between the sides. The time has been turned off for now. Play a little bit of YMCA. I'm just trying to think, when will Russie announce his lineup for that All Blacks matchup? I feel like he's going to go early. But then at the same time, maybe this is a game that you wait till Thursday before you tell everyone who is going to be on the field. Right, Machunu is on for Klopper here. Got to tighten up those little danger areas. Says DJ's there. Lots of injury so far in the store. I feel bad for Caleb Clark. Just can't catch a break from injury. But now another change being made for New Zealand. This is Timothy Tavatavanawa. Comes onto the field for Anton Leonard-Brown. They are still saving Amoni Narawa here. He is yet to make his way on to the field, but a solid showing from Anton Leonard-Brown again. Wallace Satiti trying to bulldoze through that first tackle attempt of Letebele. Now Preston changes direction, and he's just thrown the pass to the big prop, but it will be the penalty for offside against the Bulls. Enough time for 2 more tries. Let's go. New Zealand says slick there. All these South African channels saying the Bulls will give the All Blacks a hard time. All Blacks too good. Says Blinky timeout. Rassi will announce on Monday or Tuesday next week, says Brownie. See, currently 24 points separating these two sides. A converted try for New Zealand puts it up to 31-point margin. And like my preview, I went 31 points in favour of the All Blacks, but I felt like I was being harsh, to be fair, but it might not be a mile away. Nice take at the front. Fabian Holland claims that one, now rolling it back. The hands of Simasoni Taukiaho. Well defended rolling maul this time. Bounce past Ioane and behind to Jacob. Moves it on to Bowden Barrett, who can't get through one else. Puts in a last-minute tackle. In fact, it was Thika Abrahams. Ball offloaded from Jacob to Leroy Carter, and New Zealand have another one. Bowden Barrett in the past. In the past. And also Nonu had a stitch after the haka to Mars bar. However, there wasn't offside. Says Johan. Also, you're actually given the green light for that. Oh, no, sorry. You're saying the Bulls player wasn't offside. I thought for a second you were actually saying that there was like a legitimate try scored, Johan. And Carter deserves that, says Dunk. Yeah, 3 New Zealanders getting doubles in this contest so far. Nice pop pass from Jacob up to Leroy Carter, and the support was just always there. Jacob, great call from him to get into support for Bowden Barrett. Rico made that try, says Dunk there. And only small thing we learned here is if the All Blacks want to win box in the test, they need to be at least 21 points ahead at halftime. Altitude going to hit in Johannesburg against 100% better team, says Ian. Now that kick has gone over. That's a nice strike from Jacob, who's starting to get his kicking accuracy up now. 43 points to 12 in favour of the All Blacks. We heard there from Robert. The comments are as stupid as the commentary. Well, you don't have to be here. We aren't holding you hostage. We definitely wouldn't want to. Sounds like you complain too much. But 67 minutes through. 31 points difference between these two sides. The Bulls still, I believe, have one more in them. They'd have to do it relatively soon. Satiti going away to the left-hand side. Kyle Preston moves it on to Fabian Holland off to Timothy. Nawai sits down Stedman Hans and gets through Letebele as well. That is the danger of Big Jim from that inside centre role. Now offloaded, Satiti. And Nawai says Lewis there. Are we still friends, says Mohadin? I believe so. Great commentary, mate, says David. Thank you very much. Now Rico Ioane almost breaking the line again for New Zealand. And we have got there also, pretty sure I saw someone say no excuses if we lose. Says our underdog. And best commentary actually says Stephanie there. Josh Lord sitting 22 metres from the line. Narawa has made his way onto the field for Bowden Barrett for the final 12 minutes of this contest. Now Kyle Preston Looks like he's going to kick this one up for himself. Oh no, decides instead to pass it. Almost a mistake from Ioane. Ball stays in the field of play. Jacob just with a little bit of a moment to regroup. The All Blacks making hard work of this clearance. And the Bulls almost managing to rip it away. Preston under pressure again. 5 metres from the line. This all came from Preston not kicking it, but he has had the fortune of the Bulls being offside. What's the score now? Score is currently 43-12 in favour of New Zealand. There we go. It's just updated. And we have there, can't wait to see the Box tour New Zealand. A lot of talk is made about how hard it is to play in South Africa, but statistically, it's harder for the Box to win in New Zealand than it is for New Zealand to win in South Africa. And Hamish, we got you back, hence we are always here. And when you're doing commentary, says Mashihu. And great comms, really enjoyed this. Thanks, mate. Just subscribe to your channel. Thank you very much, Brownie Paw. Here we are going to be back next week with more action in this greatest rivalry tour all throughout the week as well. We're going to have plenty of build-up videos. We're going to have lineup prediction. We're going to have what I would like to see take to the field in that first match. We're going to have, what else have we got? We've got like a preview of the tour and deciding what the end score across the 4 matches could be. And also when the lineups are announced, we're of course going to have those as well. That is a not straight line out from New Zealand. So a scrum feed for the Bulls with the 10 minutes remaining on the clock. I can't compare the Box to the Bulls. Absolutely. There is a huge amount of difference. And I think that anyone who is basing their, I guess, current form of the Springboks off that game up against Argentina, I also think that that's a false sense of security. The Box will be much stronger than that when they're on home soil, and they will certainly be a tough test. Tawhatawhanau welcoming them. Super Rugby says Lewis Williams. Imagine playing the world's second best team against the provincial team, being happy the world's second best team won, says Kyle. The Box are so scared of the All Blacks. I don't think the Box are scared of any side in international rugby. They will know that the All Blacks will be rearing to go for that first test match. But I think the beauty of these two teams is the fact that, you know, there is that mutual respect between the two sides for their international game. And they know that they have to be at their best to beat the other. And they'll have to do it 4 times, which makes it that much more exciting. Billy LaRue tackled by Carter there. Now looking for the steal advantage. Goes against Carter there, though. Sorry, Amish, I wish I could listen to you on the 22nd, but I'll be full board. All in, says Matthew. Oh, Tawhatawhanau. No, in fact, it was Samasoni Taukei'aho this time trying to get the steal in the breakdown. Now moving away to the left, Satoli. With the 9 minutes remaining on the clock now, Paul DeVette in a bit of a collision with Juan House. Here comes Marcel Kurtzia. Captain trying to get some sort of last-minute moment. How did Bowden play at 15? He started off decent, but then as the match wore on, he had a few more mistakes. He still had quite a few good moments, though, throughout the game. Like, I'll give him a 5 out of 10, which isn't, like, it's not too bad as a whole. But yeah, a few poor moments did almost outweigh the good, unfortunately for him. Paul DeVette pops the ball up to Johan Robala. Now DeVette again to Satoli. It seems to be the same players running it each and every time. Their signal with the steal and the breakdown, but the penalty advantage was already in favour of the Bulls for offside. Any news on Scott Barrett? Still doing his rehab. Hoping to be back maybe by the end of the year. It's a bit of a 50-50 at the moment, though. Scoreline doesn't matter. These teams had a chance to wear us down by test time. Would expect abundance of standby. But no, nothing but autographs and selfies. So here's Nicky. We're going to see it here. Who was it? Might have been Parker. Might have, in fact, been Taukei'aho. He didn't quite get back onside. We over there, the starting 12 for the ABs was the worst player and a very good backline. Scary our ABs forwards backs link. Okay, so you're saying Anton Leonard-Brown was their worst player on the field today. Kunini will make his way on for Billy LaRue for the final 8 minutes. There's still a good chance for the Bulls to be able to score here, though. They are only sitting 10 metres out from New Zealand's line. And the Box just beat an international side by almost 80 zip. I don't get too excited, All Blacks fans. Just beat an international side. Which game was that? That wasn't their game up against Wales, was it? Because I think they beat them by about 50-something. That's a big run from Letabelli. And then their most recent game up against Argentina, they only narrowly won. But I assume you're talking about an earlier game, right? Now looking for the steal and the breakdown. New Zealand just a couple metres short, but the Bulls are over for try number 3. And it's the captain Kutsia who manages to finish it off. Thanks so much, good and fair commentary. Thank you. Enjoy your banter with your viewers. Keep up the good work speaking from South Africa. Cheers, says David Simpson. And don't read into tonight too much for the importance of the test match. And it's a good finish from Marcel Kutsia there, Lete Belly, with a good, strong attack and run. In fact, no, my apologies, it was Kuneni for one of his first impacts, and that's probably going to annoy a few Bulls supporters, the fact that they waited so long to get that man onto the field. Barbarians, it was the Barbars game, was it? The Barbarians don't count as an international side. It's worse than a provincial side because there's 0 prep and 0 combos. Says Ray there. Rasi will have answers for the All Blacks, shows the respect All Blacks have for South Africa that have changed protocols for Richie Mwonga. Says Toe. Yeah, although I don't think it changed. I think it was always the case how he had to play NPC rugby before he was going to be able to be selected on this tour. Now that he has served that time, he is able to head on over. 6 minutes remaining, 43-19 there. The moment, the way that the scoreboard sits. The All Blacks, one more try converted would take them to the half century, but the Bulls look like they've found their maybe second wind here. So we've got 5 minutes to potentially get one more. Stedman Khans fires it away to the left-hand side. Kerwin Bosch to Kuneni. Been impact ever since making his way on. Only a few minutes ago, Elric Lowe short side. Looked like he was tackled a little bit high from Amoni Narawa. And Marcel Rudolph, excellent tonight. Says, and yeah, with the exception of that one penalty against Riandre Rudolph in the early stages, he has had a really solid showing. Lete Belly. Now still 35 metres out from their own try line now. Now Kerwin Bosch goes high with this one. No one chasing too closely, although that one's gone straight through the hands of Amoni Narawa. That is going to be a penalty against Elric Lowe for a tackle off the ball. Factors you can't compare international team against a provincial team, says Kyle. And Hamish, I said 25 plus for the All Blacks all week. Says Sports Unfiltered. Well, if the All Blacks get one more converted try, I said All Blacks by 31. So we might be quite close to correct, definitely with the fact that they have now got this penalty across the field, about 40 metres out from the try line. Second one is called altitude. It came too late, says David there. And this is a good scoreline for the game of this nature. Both teams enjoying it. All Blacks are shining through, or shining though. And we have got there, looks like a Moore for the first test, says Kaka Who Design. Bot fans are like LeBron's fans. And over in the UK at the moment, your commentary is fantastic, bro. Love your work. Thank you very much, Chris. Greatly appreciated. Now kick towards the touchline from Josh Jacob. Down to the final 4 minutes of this game. They're busting out the Backstreet Boys again. This time at Loftus. The crowd have been loving this too. We have got the All Blacks always paid the ref, says Red. And I always appreciate your time giving us great commentary. Reminds me of Murray Decker, says Hipper there. Provincial teams weakened by bot players on tour. Yeah, well, that's the thing. There are many players missing in terms of these South African sides. But now Satiti straight through the gap. That just seemed like New Zealand were going a couple phases in a row. And then just straight through the gap. Wallace Satiti scores it between the posts. And here we go again, says Johan there. Jordan Burns has to get a tattoo. I bet Bulls would win. What a dummy. Says Sports Unfiltered. Maybe he wanted to get a Bulls tattoo anyway. Would be my guess. And he just decided he'd do it for this game. Timothy and Satiti impact. Says Dunk there. But yeah, just lures in the defender. The draw and pass. Nicely done. And we have got there. Thank you, All Blacks. I'm about to win $2.56. Or is that 2,056? We have got there. Couch Potato couldn't play. I saw that you deleted his other comment, Johnny. So if you're going to go back and forth with him, at least let him be able to comment too, rather than deleting it straight away. Direct running is the key to success. There's another boy there. And we have got there, you don't hear New Zealand club fans saying their clubs are weakened by absence of the All Blacks. They always perform. So here's User there. And a great finish from Wallace Satiti, making the score now the half century for New Zealand. 50 points to 19. Oh, that's a hard collision. Stegner and Stedman Khan's colliding there. Now, nice run from Kuneni. Again, look close to a forward pass. 2 games in a row. The All Blacks reach 50. We have the Super Rugby teams with the Lions 3 from 4 without the All Blacks. Sports Unfiltered. And the Bok and the Kiwi clashes are great for rugby. Absolutely. The 4 test matches are going to be absolutely incredible. There is the knock-on from the Bulls round the halfway line for Stedman Khan. I told you 8:31 it is. Says the underdog pick. Yeah, if it stays this way, anyone who hasn't already, check out that preview, because I did say All Blacks by 31. But then I second-guessed myself and said, oh, it might be closer. We played the first games with minimal impact. Says Nicky there. And 50-19, 31 difference. Perfect prediction, Hamish. Says won't believe everything. Yeah, well, you definitely shouldn't believe any of my upcoming predictions, because normally that doesn't happen. We have there Waz 40 points. AB's 50 points. Says Harry there. And man of the match, Segner. Yeah, Segner's been outstanding in this contest. I would also say that Leroy Carter's put his hands up. TAB said 30 points, almost bang on. A good call, Hamish, says Matthew. And there too, but currently 50 seconds remain on the clock here. So Leroy Carter also has been solid today. Next week, big one. A good game. Congratulations, boys. I bid you a good game. Or bid you a good. See you next week, says Mashihu. Bro, that's a strong prediction, says the underdog. Now, Kyle Preston, they might score now, though. In fact, that happened in one of the Sevens games. I had a perfect prediction up until the final last-minute try from the underdogs. Kyle Preston off to Fabian Holland, 15 seconds remaining. Tava Tavanawai goes up to Josh Lord. Do New Zealand go one last play? Or do they kick it out here and try and avoid any sort of injury before that first test? Josh Jacob passes back to Carter. Only on the halfway line, big shot on him by Jaya van Heeren. Siren sounds. New Zealand look like they want one last attack. Jacob fires it on to Josh Morby. Now cutting through, got through 3, 4, maybe 5 defenders. No, Marcel Kutsia finishes it off and manages to stop it. Kutsia rips that ball away for his Bulls side. They're under pressure here and there is the knock on. So that is full time. The All Blacks win it by 31, 50 points to 19. And got on the All Blacks. Letting the Bulls have some tries, respect. And we have got the good work, mate, says Kakahu Design. I don't know whoever called the spread. Says Rugby Jackal there. Great commentary, brother. I just hear it while studying. Says NXVU. And we have got there, what a game, and exactly like you called it, says Jameson there. And the All Blacks have scored 142 in 3 games. Box won't be able to stop them in the first test, says Sean. You bet 5 defenders. At the end, it was Josh Morby. It was just breaking through absolutely everyone for fun. Has ever played rugby league? Cook Island smashed their league team? Yeah, although their league team don't get any funding, which is pretty rough. But they actually, I think if they put a little bit of effort into that league side, that'd be a hard side to beat. And we have got there a few of them. I'll be in the team next week, says Lewis Williams. Yeah, this was certainly one where we saw certain players stepping up to that level that they needed to. What I'm quickly going to do. Right. I'm going to click this button. And hopefully with a little bit of luck, this is going to work nicely. The game out of 10, I'd give it a solid, as in for the team's performances or entertainment value. I'd say for the New Zealanders, this is probably a solid 7 or 8 out of 10 for the Kiwis. I don't think there was too much more that they could have done, with the exception of, once again, a couple of those penalty counts sneaking in. But outside of that, I feel like they did pretty much everything that they needed to. The South Africa League team, hopeless, can't even qualify for the World Cup, says Kiwi Sports. But once again, that is because they don't get support from the South African Rugby Board. They have to do it all themselves. So even to have a qualifying game, I think they did pretty well. You have to like what Rennie's done with this team. Well done. And we have got their Segner Test 7. I think he's putting pressure on Jacobson, but Rennie will probably go with Jacobson instead, based off what we've seen in terms of his selection for the early stages. We have got their top shelf commentary. Hamish says, human after all. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. And every country doesn't get league funding. It is a pro sport. As it was banned from its outset. We just keep playing like every other rugby player nation, says Sock. And we have got there, South Africa will be excellent at rugby league. They've got some powerful players. And nice one, bro, says Mondo. And there too, but nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in. We have got a review that will be coming out in the relatively near future, so be sure to keep an eye out for that too. But the next match is the test taking place between South Africa and New Zealand. That is next weekend. We may have another live stream before then. And we have got there, South Africa have no feats this year compared to New Zealand's stat year so far. Says Diaz. And the Bulls, thanks for coming, and same score as the Sharks. If you compare the weather, says Andre. And also when the Bulls play a little more direct, the All Blacks looked when the Bulls played a little bit more direct, the All Blacks looked average. Yeah, there were a few gaps opening up in that defensive line. So that is something that Rassi will probably look at and try and work out a game plan to implement that into the way that they play next week. The Bulls have a lot of footage to study. As a new All Blacks team, Bok fans, watch out. We're 6-0 this season, says Josiah. And also love your work. And another one bites at us, says Shalamur. But nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, like I said, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all for the next one.